Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Eat, Sleep, List. Your home for list making right here on the network at bicbp-radio.com. My name is Matt Johnson, one of your hosts, and we are back at Emerge. I am joined by my main man, my co-host, Mr. Dan Torres.
Matt, so good to see you, man.
Great to see you, buddy.
You know how I know you love me? You brought me 2 coffees today, dude.
I did.
That's real love. I don't know if you know that that's the way to my heart, but you really made my day with this. And man, I am so excited to be back with you and back at Emerge too.
I know. And you actually get to fully participate this time,
yes,
which I'm
I
excited.
do.
I'm excited about.
You were like the studio audience last time.
I loved it though.
You know.
It was a nice perspective to be on the listening side of things and kind of create my own images of what things look
Try
like.
to visualize it. Of course, that is the voice of the owner, the co-owner, technically, or how do you and Christian work out the titles?
Well, it's funny, because everybody gets confused about this all the time. So the answer is, I don't know. The Maranto Media is actually owned by my wife. She's the primary owner of Maranto Media.
Okay.
And Emerge is really just a thing. So, Christian and I'm probably the majority stakeholder or whatever, but Christian's heavily involved. Actually, we just came from a grant writing course because we want to keep figuring out ways that we can expand what we're doing to offer the opportunities for more people.
I love that.
So we're very excited about it. So.
No, it's awesome. You know we love this place. We had so much fun last time we were here. I have had fun every time I'm here. And we wanted to do our follow-up today. Last time, I don't know if it was almost a month. I was counting the weeks back, but then again, it might have been.
We're close to it now, I think.
Time flies by so much.
You still had a beard. That's all I know. It was pre-beard.
Pre-beard, yeah. Baby face.
Something like that.
A little too baby face. I don't know. My wife's going to kill me. Anyways, we did the Disney theme park, the attractions list, and I was like, all right, propose at the end of it. If those who listen, I propose at the end. Let's come together and let's create our own theme park ideas. All right, because obviously with Disney and Legoland and the Universal with the recent release of the Super Mario World,
yes,
the Mario World or Nintendo World, whatever the heck they're calling it, I was like, wow, let's get creative, because I don't think I've ever done a creative episode. I know we haven't done one since you've been on.
No.
I don't think we've done one where we're just kind of putting our own ideas out there in a sense. So I wanted to do that. I thought it'd be a cool follow-up. We get a gauge of, I guess, each other's interests too.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Because we're each bringing stuff that we like. I'm always going to call you Mr. Maranto. I'll just call you Maranto for now. Maranto, he has a ton of different stuff. I'm sure he's going to have a bunch of different stuff on his list than I do, Dan, and we'll all be different, and we all get to bring our fun approach. But here's the kicker. It is listception.
Yes.
The list within the list, we are bringing multiple attractions. I have 3 for each one. Did you end up doing 3?
I think there's a few that aren't really 3.
No
and
big deal.
what I kind of did is too, sometimes I said, if we're going to have this place, it needs to have this restaurant.
Right.
Sure.
So restaurant might be one of my 3.
That's cool.
I love that.
I think I actually have a 4th one, but I might not do it.
No, that's fine.
So.
Do it up.
That's great.
So that's what we got going on. Is a list within a list. We got 3 attractions per theme park idea, and I'm ready to go, guys. I've been dying for this thing for a month. You all ready?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, let's make a list. Maranto, kick us off with your number 10.
I didn't do it in order, if that makes sense, because I just kind of made the list, and then once I had the list, I kind of went through and just kind of went and just made the rides. So they're not in order in terms of. So I probably should go and say which one would be the one I least likely would go to. So I'm going to start with the worst one. This is to be honest, I'm going to admit that this is not a place that I would actually go to, but if I was going to do it, and I could see them doing this, so I decided this is going to be one I'm going to call the worst one. So I want to go to the Fast and Furious place.
Fast and Furious.
There's 10 movies, man. There's 10 movies.
I love it.
So, and there's enough crap in this terrible franchise that Christian and I on Next of Kin love to rip. Fast and Furious because it's so ridiculous.
Oh, man.
I hate
They
those
were
movies.
car racers and now they're spies or what, saving the universe, whatever. So obviously if you like the Fast and Furious franchise, hopefully you'll realize it. So I've got to start with what I would call the best place at the Fast and Furious, which is a restaurant. And so the movies, they almost always end up as together. Family. It's all about family. So we need a restaurant that feels like it's Toretto's backyard, where it's all barbecue. And what's the style of food?
It's gotta be grilled.
It's family style.
Family.
It's family style. So it's a family style restaurant that's supposed to feel like Toretto's house. So, now, then the next this is a ride now. Because the restaurant's not a big deal. The ride is, and they've done this. Think about where they'll take a thing and they'll make it like a super-seater. So, obviously, Chris and I refer to Toretto's Charger as the God Charger because it gets hit by laser fire and explosions and it never breaks. So God drives this. We call it the God Charger. So, but it's a 12-seater, so you can have that way more people can be on the ride than just two people or four. And it's like one of those what I called in the last episode the it's the trackless ride. So you're just moving around through GPS through all these things, and you just go through a bunch of experiences from the movie. So you're on ice. You're in space because the one car went to space. So then you're in a jungle. You're on a dirt road, and you're just going through, and all weapons and cars are flying over your head, and it's so that's kind of it's a trackless ride, but it's almost probably within an environment where there's a lot of practical effects as well as video effects.
Okay.
So I didn't name the ride, but probably the God
Get
Charger.
the concept.
The God Charger.
I'm here for it.
The other one I have is just Fast Track, like they have in Epcot.
Test track, yeah, like
Test Track, Test Track, but it's 2 cars. So the idea would be is that you would be in line with your family, and you and your family could break up into 2 cars, and while you're in the queue, you're designing your car, which is relatively, obviously the car is going to be the car, but you kind of decide what you want, and then when you race the other car, finally you have a point when you can hit the NOS. And
right.
You can. So it's like Fast Track or Test Track, but it's 2 cars.
It's a race.
And it's an actual race. So whatever you do in the computer queue could affect your car and make it better or worse.
Affect your experience.
Cool.
I like that.
It might actually, you end up making over-design your car, and your car will be it'll
too
suck.
heavy. Yeah,
and then you got to give it a pink slip at the end or something like that. So that's welcome to Fast and Furious Place.
I like that. I can assure you that's definitely not on my list.
Not mine either.
It's not on mine either. I'm not going.
Oh, man.
Except for the restaurant. It's all about family, man.
It's all about family.
It's like you guys. You're like family.
That's
so.
right.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Christian just shook his head when I said you're an idiot.
Oh, my God. That's absolutely incredible.
That is a great way to kick this one off.
Yeah. It's all downhill for me from there.
I really didn't expect that, honestly. Dan, let's start off with your number 10.
All right, so I'm about to be off Eat Sleep list after the century, I feel like. We're going from weird to even weirder over here. So, like Rich, I also ranked mine in, the one I'd want to go to most to the one I would want to go to least. So my number 10, I was thinking about, we all have our theme parks that are that we know offhand. We have Six Flags Darien Lake around here. We have Disney. We have Universal. But then there are those off the beaten cuff ones, those really weird ones that are kind of out there. Like you have Dolly World, right?
Yeah, Dolly World.
You have the Neverland Ranch with Michael Jackson back in the day. Weird attractions. So if we're getting weird with it, we're going to get really weird with it. Gentlemen, I present to you OJ World. So this is a park.
Why?
This is a pure vanity project.
My brother would love this park.
This is a pure vanity project, right? This is purely it. This is if OJ, got into Bitcoin early and was able to get all his stuff, and he invents this whole just piece about himself, rise to celebrate his innocence, right? And his whole story. So here are my 3 attractions that you would most want to see.
I know what one of them's going to be. I just can't wait how you word it.
So you got the live show first, and it's if I did it, this is how it would have looked.
Oh, that's great. It's like a TED Talk.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an OJ Talk.
It's a live reenactment of the book.
It's a
the book.
reenactment.
Juice Talk. It's a
But
Juice Talk.
but when things actually go down, there's just a blackout for a second, and then it pops back up, and the bodies are there.
It's like dinner. It's like murder dinner theater. Like somebody in the audience dies.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, in the blackout. That's great.
Your roller coaster kind of track and like VR kind of its simultaneous experience is going to be Al Kellings' Wild Ride.
Okay.
Where you go through on the Bronco and you're running from the LAPD and things like that.
So is this a fast ride or is it like more like a lazy river where it's really slow?
It's kind of goes both. Like you get little whips in here and there, and then like by the end you're just kind of slowing, and you're like, is this gonna end eventually?
That's
and then
great.
finally it ends. You're
That's
like, oh,
incredible.
Okay. And then you gotta slowly get out as you get out of the
That's
coaster.
I'm so impressed with this.
And then my last thing, and this is my most impressive thing, I feel like on this list, is Acquitted for the Day, which there's a glove in the middle of the park, and everybody goes and puts their hand in, and it selects a random person once a day, and that person is acquitted for the day. And they walk around with a big old button. They get to keep the glove, and everybody gets to point. They get to skip, ahead on the rides and things like that. And everybody points to them. They go, "Not guilty, not guilty."
That's great.
So that is my pitch for the vanity project of all the parks, OJ World.
That's amazing.
Y'all destroyed me on this.
That's
this
just
whole,
great.
This whole
I
list.
thought mine was pretty good, but that's so much better because it's just so random that it's incredible.
Like God,
It's very random.
I had to think of like because of those ones, like it's not necessarily vanity for Michael Jackson and Dolly Parton, I guess, because Dolly World is successful and the Neverland Ranch is iconic for a lot of reasons. But I had to really think of like what's the weirdest vanity project I could possibly.
There's so
think
many things
for
you could
a
have
park.
too. There's so many like the
Right.
escape type thing where you're like where you're like a like an escape room kind of thing where you get the Vegas hotel.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Experience. You've got just basically him walking on Twitter because he's so big on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly.
Some Naked Gun references. You could do some some
Create
Norberg.
your own OJ Twitter video.
That's so good. That's great. That's incredible.
I'm glad you appreciate
I
it.
don't
No,
have
I really do.
I don't have a single one that's gonna touch Fast and Furious or OJ Land. So I don't have a single one that's gonna touch it. My list is dog shit compared to you guys.
Stop it. Oh man.
Very good.
Thank
you guys
you.
started off really well.
Thank you.
All right. So, my friends, my number 10, I think this might be a first. I am dedicating a theme park to a food.
Ooh,
Pizza World.
Ooh, okay.
interesting.
Pizza World. All right. What a great place. You can get all the pizzas that you want, right? You could do like they have in Epcot. You get the world thing, and you got pizzas of the world. All
So
right?
you got Detroit style, Chicago style.
Yes.
New York
You just
style,
go around
yeah.
New
New York
style.
style, straight out the boat, Italy style.
Right.
Right? All that fun stuff. My 3 attractions. All right. You know those annoying spinning like cup rides?
Yep.
Cup of char spinning pepperoni ride.
I love it.
All right. You sit
like
on there,
that.
you get really sick and spin around. Also, Maranto, you've ridden on the Great Movie Ride before.
Yep.
We're doing the Great Pizza Ride, where it's just a nice casual family sit down ride through the history of pizza. It's almost like a combination of the Great Movie Ride and what's that one? It's not the Norway ride,
Yeah, I know
but
what you mean. though. Yeah.
the one in Mexico
Right.
where they
Three Caballeros.
yes, that one. It's like an agriculture, like they show everything. And then a pizza bake roller coaster where you go through like an oven and you just it's just crazy. It's
I think that if the cart on that ride was like a table, like a booth, and you got those red cups from Pizza Hut, and you're just eating pizza, drinking a gallon of Coke as you're going through the ride would be awesome.
oh for sure.
amazing.
Just sit, yeah, absolutely. Especially definitely for
That's cool.
the great pizza.
I go
ride.
to this park.
Absolutely. I mean, pizza's literally my favorite thing. All right, you can have all sorts of different types of pizza.
You got the Hawaiian pizza. We won't talk about that.
That's
too
my
much,
favorite one.
But
That's
that
my
could,
favorite
as you
one.
get around, that's going to be the
Yeah.
I like this.
Isn't it? I mean, it's probably there's other rides and attractions you can do, and you can get a cute little mascot like a walking pizza guy, and sell a ton of merch. I would buy that.
Pizza the Hut.
Yes, yes. little Spaceballs crossover.
Yeah. Or from the Jerk, Pizza in a Cup.
Yes. I would eat that. Or
this Pizza in a Cup guy was the best. He was so good he put the other pizza in a guy out of business. That's the line in the movie. And I love the fact that there was pizza in a cup and there was 2 pizza in a cups guys. That's why I love that movie. And that's my favorite thing from that movie because there's 2 pizza in a cup guys.
That does sound like really good right now.
It's so random.
I seen it someplace they did pizza cones. The cone was like the dough.
Oh,
cool.
okay.
Which is kind of neat.
Yeah.
And then I think it
Like a pizza churro kind of thing.
almost in a sense, but it was just filled with pizza.
But it's like in a shape of an ice cream cone.
Correct.
I like this.
Yeah, and it's all in there. And then didn't in Doctor Strange they had the pizza ball guy? Pizza
Oh,
balls?
yeah, they do pizza balls.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Bruce
Yep.
Oh Christ, what's
Bruce
his name?
Campbell.
Bruce Campbell.
Yep.
Yep. He was the guy.
That was great.
Oh,
Yep.
Big Papa or Papa something.
Doctor Strange love for people that are listening that got confused.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a different movie.
Different, completely different. So, Pizza World
Very
is,
good.
is
I
my
like
number
that.
10. You fill your bellies up with pizza and just get the full experience.
Ooh,
Get a couple attractions and
it's a lot of cleanup in that park.
Oh yeah.
After like
those
all
poor
that
bathrooms
pizza and being on those rides.
Those
yeah,
poor
exactly.
bathrooms.
That's for sure.
I don't have to worry about cleanup though, so
That's
I'll
true.
go and enjoy the park
That's
for
true.
sure.
That's good.
All right. Very good. All right, Moranto, you're number 9.
Okay, I'm gonna do this one quick because I did 9 ones that I'm really happy with, and the 10th I just ran out of steam. So this one, because again, mine are all media properties. They're all television, movies, or things like that. I didn't really do anything outside of that. So I'm just gonna do the Transformers Park.
Oh, cool.
And it's because my premise for all of this is I wasn't going to do just like simple roller coasters because that's the thing that bothered me about Darien Lake Six Flags was that it was like the Superman ride, but it really was just a roller coaster and it was blue.
Yeah.
Like it's not really anything to do with Superman. So
The Hulk does that too in Universal.
right.
Yep.
It's like
Yes.
what's
Yeah.
hulky about it, right? I mean, it's the car's green. Well, that's not really a thing. Like, well, what's the moment in the universe of like the Hulk where he's like where he got on a roll? I don't know, like it's silly. So Transformers, I decided they would just all be like, it would just be this Transformers Park would be lame, like most of the films, and. So they put no effort in. This is the point. So it's not like the roller coaster transforms. It's just a roller coaster, and it's the Optimus Prime. They just call it the Optimus Prime. Your car looks like a 18-wheeler. There's another ride where you just ride Bumblebee, but it's not really the car. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't transform, and it's basically just a Cedar Point, and they're just roller coasters. And everybody will go because they're great rides. They just happen to be named after Transformers. And that's the whole park. That's it. It's not really that good.
There's a lot you can do
People
with
go
that,
for
but
some
people
odd
will go.
reason. It's kind of like the movie franchise. I'm not really sure why.
You know why? Because deep down, I can tell you this because I know you're also someone else who loves Transformers. It's like deep down, you know how cool it could be, and you're hoping they do it just right. But instead, they just give you the bare bones, and you're like, oh. I think that's why that theme park makes a lot of sense for it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all I had for it. I mean, I just need one. I
There's a
decided
lot of merchandise you could do
because
with
I
it.
felt like if I put any more work into it, I did more than Michael Bay did. So I just figured I should just. I mean, like there's and we've talked about Transformers a lot on our podcast, and there's just things in that movie that are like. Wait, he put that into the script? Like, why is that? Why is there an underage girl dating like, what? What is that? Oh, the rule, the Romeo and Juliet rule? I'm like, what? Like, why is that in a script? So, like, to me, like, Transformers is just like, I'm looking actually forward to the reboot because they think they may actually, the Transformers sizes look more appropriate.
Yeah.
and shit,
Yeah,
so.
they look great.
And I like Bumblebee.
I do
Bumblebee's
too.
great.
That's the thing is like Transformers, the toys and the cartoon series was so cool.
The first movie was very good.
yeah, the first movie.
The
was
Bumblebee
good.
movie was good.
Mhm.
And then everything else. I mean, and not that the other one, they're just, you know what they are, but they just got progressively worse.
Yeah,
in my mind,
exactly.
but-
At Universal, when Bumblebee was like out taking pictures with
Yeah.
people, I was so excited to get
cool.
my picture taken
Yeah.
with it because I was like, "Oh, freaking Transformers! That's
Yeah.
awesome!"
Yeah, there should be more of that.
Yeah,
100%.
honestly.
Very good. All right, Dano, you're number 9.
So my number 9, I guess, is almost a vanity project too, but in a different way. Because it is kind of based on one person, but you know, Walt Disney World's the same kind of thing.
Correct.
I had to kind of think of creators that create a lot of content, and like you said at the beginning, I kind of wanted to do a lot of things I liked. And for reference too, I kind of went back to the worlds we'd want to visit.
Yes.
Too, like the fictional ones, and that helped a lot with it. But one that I left off that I've always been infatuated with is the Seth MacFarlane world. So I'm
okay.
keeping it simple. I'm calling it McFarland.
I like that a lot.
It's very simple, very easy, and it focuses on all his creations, right?
Yeah.
There's a Family Guy section. There's an American Dad section. You have a section that deals with Ted.
Yeah.
You can even have like some Cleveland show mixed in there, even though it's like, but he's just maybe the characters are just walking around.
like
you
this.
don't need a whole like section for it.
Yeah.
And the attractions I thought of specifically. And this first one's inspired by the Simpsons ride that's at Universal, where you go up in the car and it's a lot of like IMAX and stuff. But instead, it's Peter Griffin's Day in the Life. So it's like you go with him in the car. He goes to like the clam real quick. It's like all his shenanigans. You see all the typical guys and stuff like that. In the American Dad world, because I'm a huge American Dad fan. I think something simple and effective you could do is Roger's escape from Area 51, which is how he makes it into the show in the first place, because Stan finds him there and Roger saves his life.
Right.
So you could do either a VR or a maze type of thing. Both of those things would be really fun to do with that. And then last but not least, you have to have a VR chicken fight. It's one of the most iconic things in Family Guy history. You gotta have a VR where you strap up, they give you a random scenario each time, and like you do a chicken fight and you go through like entirely different places. Like start one place, end up in outer space, get back to Earth or
That's
whatever.
great.
It's just how like everything was with that.
I just think some of the people that Peter Griffin interacted with, like, it's like the time that I fought Hitler.
Yeah.
And you
Right.
should have like an animated like costume of Hitler walking around in the park.
See, there's so many things you could do with that. Like,
and you should be
OJ
able to walk up and
OJ
just
was
punch the chicken.
Yeah.
You should be able to walk up and you're allowed. It's encouraged
It's like one of those tests
to
of
punch it
strength.
right in the stomach.
Like a test of strength, like attraction. You know what I mean? Like you punch the ball, punch that ball.
Yeah.
You just punch the chicken and see
Yeah.
how strong you are.
Yeah, and this was, like I said, this was heavily inspired by like the Simpsons section of
Yeah.
Universal, but
Yep.
Family Guy's becoming just as iconic too
Absolutely.
for different ways. It's the big three as far as like cartoon shows that have spawned like the adult era of like cartoons.
Yeah.
Are South Park, Family Guy, and The Simpsons.
100%.
So I think that Seth MacFarlane like would deserve a shine like that, and I think it would be so fun. I think it would bring a lot of people in from our generation in for sure. So I would
You could
love
even
to go
have
to
his
McFarlane.
sci-fi show in there. or whatever,
Yeah,
or whatever.
exactly.
You could have like a
the
speech
the Orville.
Orville,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. But yeah, you could do so many things with that. That's why I think McFarlane is
I like
a
it.
great
That,
addition.
see, this is the creative stuff that I was hoping to hear on this episode.
Awesome.
That's really like forward thinking, and I like McFarlane's work. And you're right, he's built this like really cool universe that is crossed over, right?
Right.
Simpsons has that massive thing where there's a character for everybody, and there's a store and a location. There's the locations are almost as iconic as the characters. And I think McFarland would actually be a pretty cool one.
Yeah, for sure.
So very good, very good.
Thank you.
All right, my number 9. I'm gonna get this one out of the way. I'm not gonna say it's a throwaway one, but it's probably one that I'm least likely to go to. World Wrestling Entertainment World.
I almost put something like this.
All right, I've been thinking about this for a long time. So when I grew up, I never got to go visit it. But Canada, just over the border, Clifton Hill, had a WWE, they call it WWE Canada, or WWE Niagara Falls. And it had a store in there, it had a cool little cafe, and it actually had a ride called the WWE Pile Driver. And I always thought about this because there's only like certain things, that could really pull off maybe doing a theme park. WWE has been very, I'm not a fan. I'm not really a fan of it as much as I used to be. But they are a big brand, and they have never been afraid to try new things, right? Vince McMahon tried the World Bodybuilding Federation. They also had WWF New York. You remember that?
I remember that.
Amongst other things. A theme park, a wrestling dedicated theme park. WWE's one of their biggest money thing is merchandise. You have tons of merchandise, a variety of spots. And then you could dedicate rides back on like pay-per-views, which I have a couple attractions here, or wrestling moves, or you can even license out things for like Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold and John Cena and some of the big names over the years. But,
very cool.
But I kept it pretty simple with the rides. I brought back the pile driver. We call it the pile driver drop. It was basically one of those rides that went up and then fell down, up a little bit, down, big up. Up and down, up and down, up and down. I also did a WrestleMania roller coaster, which is just their own fun take on a roller coaster. And then my other favorite pay-per-view that they typically do every summer is called SummerSlam, and I made it like a water coaster, kind of like Jurassic Park or Splash Mountain. So something along the lines of that. Just a variety of a Cedar Park but with the WWE name attached to it. But I mean, just so much to do.
Very cool.
If like when they had it at Hollywood Studios, when they had the American Idol Day, like
Yes.
where you could almost have like a show where you go in and you get to try to become a wrestler.
That too. That's one of the things that I really
That'd be
like.
kind of cool thing, and you actually, if you win that day, you get a chance to try out for. You get like a golden ticket to try out at the audition.
You could do tryouts, right? You can even do like when WrestleMania comes around, they do this big access event. It's like their own Comic-Con
Right.
where you can do an entrance. You can go in a WWE ring, and that's all stuff you can have year round, which would be, I think, just pretty cool. And I
So
think there's
cool.
enough people who would travel to that. There's so much. There's a lot of creativity that you could do with it, and I think it'd be fun. I think WWE is the only one that, as far as wrestling goes, that could really pull that off, even currently. They have the money to do it, and if they did it right, I think it'd do very well. So, World Wrestling Entertainment World, WWEW.
I love it.
That's my number 9.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Okay, so my next one, and now at this point, a lot of them actually turn into things that I think that I'd actually like to see.
Yeah.
So I got the silly ones out of the way. Now I'm actually ones that like I would actually be interested in going to. For the most part, there's a couple silly ones in here just for fun. But the next one I like because I love this franchise, and there is a ride, but I'd like a whole section of a Disney park that was committed to Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, beautiful.
Awesome.
So obviously upgrade the original ride.
Of course.
Make it a little bit better. It's not that it's a bad ride, but it's just a little dated. And even though they've updated, I love them to update it again. But the first one is you actually get on, those pirate rides that swing back and forth. It's inspired by that, but I can't do those because they make me sick. So I want the pirate ship, but I want it to be the Black Pearl.
Okay.
And I wanted to do like the thing where first you have to rock the ship like they do in the one movie, because they got to come in, they have to go down to get Johnny Depp, and then you get to go underwater, and then you go around the maelstrom like in the third movie, and then Kraken comes at you. So it's kind of like that King Kong ride that they used to, and like it's just a kind of combination of, but you're actually in a physical like boat with like another 25, 30, whatever number of size boat, and it literally it's kind of like it had to be on a track. So. But it would rock, and then but there'd be, again, all kinds of other things going on.
That'd be cool. Do you remember, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think it was like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea at Disney, older ride.
Right.
It went underwater.
Right.
I think that's what it was.
I actually have a ride that is inspired by 20,000 Leagues in a different park.
Oh, you do? Okay,
So
cool.
I'll save, but
I'll
that's
save it.
definitely, but I'll be getting to that.
Okay.
The second thing I want, again, I like the food, so I want a restaurant that's basically like Tortuga. Like, so there's like pirates running around. I want actors while I'm eating dinner to be fighting and sword fighting and insulting each other, and the woman to slap somebody. And I want it to be like, like I want people coming around and interacting, like a Chuck E. Cheese's, but they're coming at me and they're causing troubles, and you can insult them, and I think that would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
And then I just want another ride, which would be like one of those trackless rides that they have now, but it would feel like one of the various chase scenes, or it could be a combination of the chase scenes. Like you're like the last movie, well, the fourth movie, where you're in London and he escapes from the, and you jump into the carriage and, Johnny Depp or whoever's on the front of the carriage and you're going through London. And eventually maybe it cuts into the one movie where you're kind of spinning and rolling. You give you the effect that you're rolling down the hill like we're in the way, in the wheel in the one. Like, so a lot of things like that. Where you're, and eventually, you get away, and then that's how it ends. Johnny's the end. He's like, he gets away because he says his line, like, you will all remember that you almost caught Captain Specs, and he'll get away. Like, so it's almost like you could be even chasing him, trying to capture him in the movie, in the ride or something. So some because I love that franchise, and unfortunately it's been quietly canceled, and I just love the franchise, and I miss those movies. They're good movies.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of fun history. Like, you can almost intertwine history with this thing too, right? Because a lot of that, it's Pirates of the Caribbean. So you can have a lot of Caribbean food, which is not like a big theme park staple.
Yep.
Which is nice. And instead of like these big bright lights, you can everything like candle lit or like torch lit, which I think it gives a cool aesthetic to it. I got some good ideas for this one too. I would if I had $1 million, I would fully support it. You'd probably need a lot more than $1 million, but I think it's a really cool idea just to kind of grasp that time period. So very good.
Pirates is such an underrated franchise. It's so freaking cool, and I think that it might even expand the fandom a little bit, because I feel like we're starting to get to a point where people have lost like the feeling of how cool they were. They don't appreciate them as much as they should.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's so awesome.
The acting is really good in those movies, like Barbossa, and I just like those movies an awful lot.
Yeah. I wish they did more things like that, like live action, like deals.
Right.
With Disney did a pretty good job with bringing that all forward. It was cool when they brought that. I don't think anybody expected it to be as big as it would become.
Right. Yeah. Fun fact, so in Dead Man Tell No Tales, the one they did in 2017, they have a young Jack Sparrow at one point in that movie, and I actually did a scene with him in another movie.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So, that's neat.
So we all have a couple degree separation
from Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp and Sir Paul McCartney, who's also in that movie.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I like that. That funny casting. That's good. That's cool.
Yeah, that was a fun thing.
Yeah, amazing.
My number 8, I feel like someone else is going to have at some point. So this may be our first crossover one that we have. And I don't have any specific attractions for it, but I think it just kind of speaks for itself. I really, as much as the dangers of it were shown, I really want like a Jurassic Planet. I want like a Jurassic World. I figured you had something like that. Man, we're just at an age where it would be so cool to have, like, giant animatronic dinosaurs.
Yeah.
In any, like, even if you just did, like, a 2-day safari or something like that and got to see them in different environments. It doesn't even need – I think that's why I don't even have specific attractions, because I think the dinosaurs are just attractions enough if you do it the right way.
Well, they have those attractions like like in our area at KeyBank Center, they had that like the dinosaurs walk around thing.
Yes.
And obviously, if you put it in a specific park, you could definitely kind of.
Oh, it'd be so.
So would this actually be though based like the park is supposed to be like Jurassic Park?
That's the way I kind of looked at it. Not the whole thing. Obviously, there's going to be some sections, but the way I envisioned it is that. With these, animatronics. So
you're in a Jeep and you're driving around.
You can do the Jeep tour. You can still do the Jeep tour. You can set it up like the way. How cool would it be to ride through and see a giant animatronic?
Like against
T-Rex.
Safari, what's it called? Like Kilimanjaro safaris, but you're seeing animatronics. I'm glad you don't actually want to start cloning dinosaurs.
No.
Because we know how that worked out.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to avoid with this park is like all the mistakes they made that led to dinosaurs actually running.
There's got to be a ride, an experience in it where it is actually like. Like they make you feel like that it actually like they got to make fun of the movies and everything. Like I always love that line from the first movies. Like, oh, when Disneyland opened, everything broke, and then Jeff Goldblum's line, like, yes, but when Pirates of the Caribbean breaks down, the pirates don't eat the tourists. It's such a great line. And that's why I love that franchise. And it went downhill, unfortunately, very quickly. But I still love that first scene in that first movie, and I hope the park would have that where Dr. Grant turns his head and he's like sees the brontosaurus. Like,
Yeah.
I
So
I
cool.
love that movie. I think that's a top 10 moment in film, even though like there's better CGI and stuff nowadays. But I still love that moment.
It's
I still
incredible.
Love that
I
scene.
feel the same way.
It's so cool. And you know what I picture too? This is our generation specific to it. See, there's a very early episode of Pokemon. After the cruise ship that they're on sinks and they get off and they end up on this like Pokemon island or
Yeah.
something like that with the giant animatronic ones. That's kind of what I see.
Right, which it could
that's
be
cool.
good.
Yeah.
I seen something. It was a couple months ago when I was on social media. It was in Japan. All right, they brought a animatronic raptor into the building, and this thing moved very realistically.
Oh,
had all the
man.
range of motion. They brought it to a kids' elementary school. They scared the shit out of these kids, but I couldn't believe how realistic it looked. And you spare no expense, right? Right, Mr. Dr. John Hammond. Spare no expense and make this thing as lifelike as possible, and you give people that surreal experience.
Yeah.
I'd love to take a ride and just even if I know that it's not real, just look at this gigantic T-Rex. You get a size, right? You actually get to grasp with your own eyes the size, right? How massive these things are. A giant brontosaurus, a raptor, a dilophosaur. You go through these, and I have a zoo in mine too. So
Oh,
you
awesome.
get the Jeep ride, and then you have a zoo where you can actually kind of walk through and see them.
I mean, I
walking.
like that Animal Kingdom, where there's the ride, but then when you go to India, you just kind of walk through that thing and you
Yeah.
see the tigers and the gorillas, and you see that it's more of like a zoo experience. And I kind of like that. I like the idea that there was a ride, but then there was also just one that was supposed to be more like just a walkthrough.
Right.
You know.
And I think that's something you could definitely implement in this. And then I have a raptor ride roller coaster. I really like the scene in the first Jurassic World where they're riding the motorcycles with the raptors. I think
Right.
so you could find something along the lines of that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
there's so much to do. But
That's cool.
But yeah, I'm glad I thought I might have been the only one, but I'm really glad that you brought that up. So
No, I loved it, and especially after going down to Universal and seeing the Jurassic Park section they have down
that's
there.
so fun.
It's great.
I love that river ride.
They're the roller coaster they added, the Raptor one, is the best one I've ever been
Oh,
on.
I don't think I've
It's
heard
so
that
good.
before.
Where you were saying, Moranto, about like the Hulk ride just not even being remotely
Right.
about the Hulk, the Raptor ride they do just totally
You can make and that's the
incorporates
thing where I
everything
guess why I don't like lazy, because you can make a fun roller coaster, whether it's Thunder Mountain, whether it's the Snow White Mine Chase,
Yeah.
whether it's Rock and Roll Roller Coaster. You can make a roller coaster that is themed.
Yes.
And just a lot of places just choose not to do it because it's cheaper just to paint it blue.
Yeah,
Correct.
You
it's
know,
so
or green.
cool though. You
You
start off in the thing, they move you up a little, and the Raptors
That's cool.
are moving in their cages.
Oh, I didn't
as
realize.
you're
That's
going.
really
So,
cool.
like,
So the queue. So are you on?
Yeah.
Is that the queue or is that the actual ride itself?
It's like it's you see some of the stuff in the queue, like they play like a little Chris Pratt video
Right,
and stuff
oh,
like
okay,
that.
right.
But then when you're actually
Once you're in the
on the
cart,
ride, they
yeah.
move you up a little bit, and that's when
That's
the
cool.
sequencing starts. So the Raptors are like moving with you
That's
as
cool.
the ride goes.
That's cool.
And it kicks up a lot too. So like right when you think you can't go faster, it boosts again.
That's really
Oh,
cool.
It's
man.
awesome.
I
It's so
love
good.
it. So there it is.
Okay.
That's that would be our number 8,
Number
right?
8, yeah,
So Jurassic Park World Land.
Jurassic
World
Park.
Land.
Jurassic World.
Jurassic, yes. All right, Moranto, you're number 7.
So I decided I had to do something with superheroes. And I
Excellent.
went back and forth whether I was going to do DC or Marvel. And I decided to go back to my childhood, and I went with DC.
You went with DC.
Awesome.
Okay.
So DC World, especially with all the James Gunn stuff happening with the changes in DC. When I was a kid, appointment TV Saturday mornings was the Justice League, Super Friends. But the first season or the second season with the Space Monkeys and all that stuff was terrible. But once they got to like the third season, when they started bringing in the rest of the true Justice League, it really got good for me. So I decided to do, and obviously I watch a lot of the animated Justice League stuff. So I decided I want an experience. This is a show, but it's the Hall of Presidents, but instead of the Hall of Presidents, it's the Hall of Justice. So the building is the Hall of Justice. So when you walk down, instead of Cinderella's castle, the building is the center of Disneyland, DC Land.
right.
So and what always bothered me about Cinderella's castle, there's nothing in Cinderella's because it's up a restaurant and in that one hotel room that's really expensive.
Yes.
So, but this is an actual show. So you go into the Hall of Justice, and all the superheroes are standing there, And they introduce them all just like the Hall of Presidents in Disney World. And so Superman's there and Batman's there, and you can have 12 Robins. You can have all that stuff that you want. And then they all start talking. But then during the show, eventually the show's interrupted by the Legion of Doom. And the Legion of Doom shows up, and then it makes it look like they're outside the buildings. You see, like, graphics and everything. And then you have a bunch of other things where Superman just kicks everybody's ass quickly, and then that's the show. But I would love the concept, and I have this in another ride, too, another park coming, where I'd love to see animatronics of all the superheroes just standing there talking.
Yeah.
The second one is, again, I love those trackless rides. This one is like you're in a giant Batman car, again, with 12 other people, and you're driving through Gotham, and you're basically helping Batman save everybody. So you're going to come across like a little bit of all the Batman car chases. So you're chasing the Penguin, or it's kind of, so you could have elements of all the different movies that all have the different chases, and I don't care which Batmobile you go with. I'd probably go with, like, if I had to pick one, I'd probably go with, like, the Michael Keaton Batmobile.
Sure. Oh, yeah, that's probably the
because I feel
most
like
famous.
that one you could definitely turn into a cool car.
Yeah.
And then again, I'd probably, just because if I'm in that universe, I'd probably go with those versions of those bad guys that I would run into.
Spoiler alert: a Gotham City base theme park is coming up on my
Okay,
list
cool.
at some point, and a Batmobile ride is
Yeah,
also on.
that's
there.
very cool. The other one I wanted to do was a soaring ride, like in Epcot. But what I want you to do is it's all the flying superheroes from DC, and as you're in the thing and you're flying around all the cities of all the Gothams, all the DC cities. So you're in Metropolis. So they're not real cities. They're all CGI cities because it's Capital City and all those other silly cities that aren't real cities, which is a funny thing that people don't like DC always complain that they're not real cities. And you're flying around, but then Hawkman will fly into the thing, and you'll see a flying Hawkman in the video that you're kind of, so it's soaring, but it's also an interactive thing because you're flying with them. You know, and they would, we're out, and then they do the thing where all of a sudden you transition and you're in Metropolis and Superman flies by.
Cool.
And I think that would be kind of fun. And then this was the other one I talked about. I guess this was the park I had 4 ones. This is where I would have the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea ride, which is Aquaman.
Oh,
so
yes.
you get into a submarine, it's the Bat Sub or something, and you go underwater, and then everything going on is Aquaman related. So you'll see Mantis or whatever's bad guy.
Black Manta, yeah.
Black Manta, so you'd see. But because I broke my heart when they closed 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea because it was such a good ride.
I never wrote it, but I had this book when I was younger about Disney attractions, and then my dad, it's where the Little Mermaid's grotto is.
Right.
You can actually see the track still in the water.
Yeah.
And I was like, "There's a ride there." He's like, "Yeah, I used to get to ride under the water."
It just I think they just didn't feel like spending any money to refurbish it. I guess they were having a lot of problems with leaking and everything. But I mean, it was such a good ride because obviously it was just a boat, and you walk down, and they made with bubble effects make it feel like you went underwater.
Yeah.
But it was done so well that it was very hard with the way they had set the car up, the submarine up. You couldn't see the surface. You really had to get down low in your chair to kind of see. And then the interior of the submarine in the 20,000 League ride was really cool. So if you did like a bat boat or bat submarine, the Bat Sub or something, and you're looking for Aquaman or you're helping Aquaman, I mean, there's so many different ways you could do that.
Yeah, Journey to Atlantis or something like that.
Yeah.
So
that's
very cool.
That's my DC park.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah. I'd go to that park.
I would go to it. It's just so cool because we're saying this stuff, and I can legit visualize myself at these rides, and I'm getting there's such like an information overload going on over here.
My nerdy little heart is so happy right now. It's like fluttering thinking of that. It's got to be a reality.
The potential,
especially
right?
because I feel like you could do some things too with you don't have to have like a Henry Cavill or a Christopher Reeve. You can just be Superman.
Yeah.
It doesn't, because we all kind of know what Superman looks like, so we don't have to worry about casting a specific Superman. It's just Superman.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's in Batman, there's, obviously I'd like the more traditional, the overpowered animated cartoon Batman versus, and that's what I almost would like. I'd like to see him almost be more of the animated cartoon ones rather than, specific actors.
Those are the most recognizable ones. That's
Get
the
Kevin
one
Conroy's voice in there.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
R.I.P.
Oh man. All right, my number 7 It was hard to. I think I have 2 video game related ones. Yes, I have 2 video game related ones on this list. This
Very
is my
cool.
first one, and it was hard to narrow down because there's a lot video game wise I could do, but I had to stick with my roots. So I introduced to you PlayStation Planet, which is going to be
yes.
a park with all sorts of different PlayStation-based video games and residencies within it. I think that with Sony specifically, there's so much that they have access to that they'd be able to do some really cool things with.
Oh, for sure.
But for my 3 attractions on this, I focused on some of the OGs. So first, for your more epic ones that you have Kratos' Adventure of the Gods.
Okay.
And that's
That'd be cool.
a VR experience where you can kind of have access to like his chains and some of the weapons that he has, and it's a guided mission through everything.
Right.
Kind of make it you dim it down a little bit so that it's friendly for everybody.
No, of
right?
course.
But it's a cool experience. You get to feel the vibrations and feel yourself like actually in like face to face with some of these like ginormous characters that you see in the video game. I think that would be really cool for all fans of
I think a lot of people would love that.
Selfishly, because it's my favorite video game of all time, I added a Spyro homeworld on there.
Okay.
So it's a section where it's, if you're familiar with the games, Spyro goes into different homeworlds, and from there he could take different portals to different other places. So you have the homeworld when you walk into his section, and then there are different portals around, and when you step through those portals, you're in different locations from the game. So it's
love
like
that.
it's like a full tour of everything that was in that. If I had to pick, I'd probably pick like either Summer Forest or Autumn Plains from the second one. And then I think you'll appreciate this one. This is my roller coaster based one, but it's called what did I call it? Crash's Hog Wild Ride.
Yes.
And it's based off of Hog Wild.
That's
that
cool.
level
That's a
from
great-
Yeah, that's
the first
cool.
Crash Bandicoot.
I love that.
So
Yeah, right.
like it gives you the whole sequence of jumping on the pig, and then the roller coaster goes and you're moving nonstop, and like things are coming at you. You're dodging quick, right? Like those kind of things. It gives you that same stress level
There's a
that
lot of
those
That's very cool.
games gave
That's
you.
very cool.
I think that would be so fun. I think there needs to be more things for gamers out there.
I agree.
And I think Nintendo World's going to be great for that.
it's.
I think we're finally getting, and we've talked about this a bunch of times, Matt, you and I, that video games are finally getting the recognition.
finally.
Yeah.
You know, Last of Us is obviously the best
Mm-hmm.
example of it. About what great stories. There's gold in them there hills. You know, like
Yeah.
it's such amazing storytelling, and but it's a game. But now people, and admittedly, I don't play. I mean, my video game history was like Atari when I was a kid, and then a little bit as I got a little bit older. Like Rogue Squadron was probably the last true video Bond, the first Bond movie that
Yeah.
came out. Were probably the last games I really played. But I know enough about them just because listening to my children talk for the last 15, 16 years as they were allowed to play video games. But I mean, I definitely think that we're moving into a time where video games are getting the recognition that they deserve.
Yes.
Like the people that write these games are becoming producers and directors, and I think that's really cool.
I couldn't agree more. And I love this concept. Like I just thought of a whole theme park revolving around Crash Bandicoot. Obviously, it didn't make my list, but it crossed my mind because I think the potential is there. For
And
a lot of
anybody
fun
can play
stuff.
Mario Kart. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that's a different, that's not PlayStation, but that's the thing everybody knows.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think that's
I
something
think this
we would
Mario,
all-
this little. I mean, it's only a section, right? It's not a whole park.
It's
just
only
a
a
section.
section, I believe.
This Mario Park, I think it opens up a lot of possibilities, and I think that's why this list works as well as it does.
You guys are
because-
video game guys, and I know
Yeah.
this is kind of off topic, but when they first doing like Mario Party, was that the first time they ever really had characters from multiple games cross over? don't know.
Mario Kart was technically the first one because they had Donkey Kong in
Right.
that one, but
yeah.
it Super Smash Brothers and Mario Party really kind of expanded that.
And I always thought that was genius to do the crossover of all these characters and that they all existed in the same place. Because I love universes,
I agree.
and I thought that was a cool universe.
A lot of places, a lot of like PlayStation's attempted it, and it hasn't really panned out. Like Nintendo has just done such a good job of the crossovers. They've Legend of Zelda, Kirby, Metroid. More so, probably Super Smash Brothers has probably been the big uniter.
Mm-hmm.
It's really like they're every couple years they come out with a new one and they just unite everything. So,
Right.
Very good.
Thanks, dude.
We got some good ones coming up. I have so many good ones. All right, so next one I'm going to go with you guys, I hope would appreciate this. I grew up on cartoons, and I grew up on older cartoons.
Oh, I can't. If you do what I think you're going to do, and I didn't think of this, I'm going to be so disappointed in myself.
I am doing Hanna-Barbera World.
Oh,
So cool.
Is that what you thought?
No, I didn't think of that. But the fact that I didn't think of Saturday morning cartoons is embarrassing.
You could.
What the hell's wrong with me? I'm leaving. I'm out.
You're out? All right. We'll lock up. Yes, I loved Hanna-Barbera stuff. I mean, this is some of my favorite memories growing up with my dad. He worked nights so he can be with us in the daytime. Which
is the coolest thing I've ever heard, by the way.
Isn't that neat?
That's
my
very
parents used to
impressive.
split up. My mom worked days at the doctor's office, and he would work nights and afternoons. So there was always somebody with us. And some of my fondest memories were sitting around and watching Cartoon Network. And before all these shows moved to Boomerang, the own Boomerang channel, I was watching Droopy and Wacky Racers, the Flintstones, the Jetsons, and everything in between. Why not dedicate a park towards it?
Yeah.
I don't know how well it would do currently if we're looking at it like that, because a lot of people, newer people
Well,
in
you
this
got
generation.
Scooby-Doo, you got Jetsons, you got Flintstones, which are still incredibly well known.
Right. I think Scooby-Doo is probably the most prominent one out of all those. I can't remember. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure when the newest Flintstones or Jetsons thing has come out. But I think traditionally, it would make a really good theme park. I remember growing up, my parents used to take us to Canada's Wonderland all the time. And one of the very few things that I remember of those trips is they used to have a row of Flintstones cars that you could sit in and take pictures in.
Oh, that's cool.
Which I thought was amazing. So I have some fun rides for it. All right, I'm doing a Smurf Village ride.
Ooh, cool.
All right, so my idea for this is to give the illusion. It's almost like a simulation, but you could probably, it's probably definitely a simulation where you kind of shrink stuff down, or you can even do like a roller coaster or non-video thing, but you make the big world seem bigger, right? The blades of grass are big. The Smurf Village is kind of like at your level. You just kind of almost give this illusion that you are shrunken down to the Smurfs. Mm-hmm. And at Gargamel,
which is like what the Ratatouille ride kind of thing
essentially.
is.
And I do have one more ride on another park that is like that, but it is a cool. I think it's a pretty cool way to approach it. I always love going to these theme parks and you get some of the racetrack things, right? You see the racetrack. What about a Wacky Races racetrack?
I love it.
That's cool.
Right? You get the different cars. You get the different cars, and you hop in. You can even throw a couple. You throw a Flintstone car in there. You can throw a jet. You can throw a whole bunch of Hanna-Barbera properties, and then
Speed Buggy or whatever it was, that one. I used to like Speed Buggy.
Yes, so many. Scooby-Doo Mystery Machine Coaster. I wanted to do it like Space Mountain a little bit, so it's pretty dark, but stuff pops up. Throughout, you can make it a lot of fun. But I mean, there's tons of property. I was looking, right. Underdog was one. There's so much you could do with Hanna-Barbera, and a Hanna-Barbera theme park. But yeah, I knew this is one of the ones I definitely wanted to pull off. Disney, like nobody could touch Disney and their approach at cartoons. Hanna-Barbera was really big for a long time. I think they had like a 50, 60-year run on top where they were just pumping out tons and tons of
Super
cartoons.
Friends and all that was all Hanna-Barbera.
That's right. I looked it up. And I looked that up. I looked up a list. I was like, wow, they've done like well over 100
I mean, there was Josie and the Pussycats, and they were all basically Scooby-Doo. They were just different versions of the same thing.
I think they inherited Tom and Jerry at one point. I think. I'm not 100% certain, but you are right. They did the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yep.
There's a lot you could do with Hanna-Barbera, so I'd like to make.
And if you think about it's funny about the Harlem Globetrotters because they were just in Buffalo last night. Zach worked the event.
Were they really?
Yeah, They were just here last night, and Zach worked the event, and it's funny because he hadn't been there in a really long. He remembers my parents took him when they were like 8 or 7 or 8. But he said it's a fun show, and it was like the first he thought it was gonna be kind of it wasn't. The whole bottom section of the arena was filled. Obviously, there was nothing. They didn't even sell the upstairs part. So, because they want everybody to be, like, interactive. So, I mean, yeah, but I remember, like, for most people that didn't see the Harlem Globetrotters, they were always on, they were, like, on TV. They were in animation. I think there was one where they crossed over with Batman, and there's always those weird, Batman crossed over with Scooby-Doo. Like, Hanna-Barbera did a lot of those crossovers in the beginning, which I always thought was very cool.
Yeah, OG Batman was on there, like the cartoon.
I used to love their crossovers that Scooby-Doo did, but yeah, cartoons, man. That one, I know
definitely.
Andrew Lenz, if you're listening to this.
That's
so
why that
appreciate
episode of Supernatural that crosses over with Scooby Doo is just incredible. It's
Oh,
one
it's
of the
the
best
best.
television episodes of television ever,
That's how you know you've made it if you cross over and you're with Scooby Doo.
for sure, without a doubt. So, but we won't talk about Velma.
No, they renewed it apparently for a second season. I heard it's awful.
So they can lower Metacritic score.
Oh, it's terrible.
Am I up, or are you still going over there? I
You're
didn't
up.
wanna- I
I'm
wanna
all
cut
set
you
on
off.
Hanna-Barbera land.
So I'm going to go with this one. It really should be higher, but I'm going to put it here just because I need to get it out. This is the Indiana Jones park.
Beautiful.
I want an
Awesome.
Indiana Jones park. It's my favorite hero. I have two favorite heroes, Captain Kirk and Indiana Jones. You can already guess where I'm coming from eventually. But Indiana Jones, I love the show. I mentioned in the last episode. But the Indiana Jones ride in Anaheim, Disneyland, is very cool. And I would love them to update that and actually put Harrison Ford in it, because it's not even Harrison Ford. Like, it's not his voice. They need to update it. If you've been on Dinosaur at Animal Kingdom, it's basically the same ride, except you can almost feel like the car and everything is the same. But they obviously, you're not looking for a dinosaur, you're escaping a temple.
Yeah.
So I feel like if they did a temple ride updated and you actually had Harrison Ford in it, if you can pull footage from other movies or whatever, I think that would be kind of cool. I would love that. Definitely want a trackless ride where it's like you're in the Desert Chase, or various versions of those scenes from the different movies where you're in, again, the truck type thing, and you're kind of helping Indiana Jones. You're kind of following him through the thing, and the Nazis are coming at you, and there's tanks and stuff. I feel like some of the things they're doing, like Rise of the Resistance, you could do a lot of cool things with that. And then the other thing is, I just want to walk through puzzle experience where you gotta learn, you gotta get through all the different things that Indiana Jones always, like all the the traps that he has. You gotta step on the stupid things, Jehovah, like in the fourth movie where it's like, there's no I in Jehovah, like, and there's the third movie and all that type of stuff, and X marks the spot, and all those things where it's almost like they're escape rooms, and there's all kinds of different theme ones, but they're all Indiana Jones themed. So in every couple of years they'd have to update them because you'd go through them all. But I feel like that would be kind of I think those would be kind of fun.
Yeah. No, that's a really good one. Indiana Jones, it's a classic.
I'm sure you could do a bunch of motorcycle rides and stuff like that.
Oh,
too.
tons of motorcycle
Tons of
stuff. That has
know.
a fun little lore too. I mean, they really did Lego Indiana Jones. There's enough like stuff there. If they can make a video game out of the whole series, essentially,
Right.
which they have.
Well,
there's
we
a
got
lot
a
you
whole
could
other
do.
movie
Yeah,
coming.
That's
so.
true. There is a
100,
fifth one.
149 days.
Is it that close?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Not
Wow,
that I'm counting.
I was just say you knew that right at the top.
I mean, and Indiana Jones is, I guess, my favorite character of all time. And I think it's such a great character. He's smart. He can't fight one guy, but he can fight 50. Like it's Christian and I were watching Last of Us, and we almost made this joke that like Joel is kind of Indiana Jones at times. Like he's fighting like he take out 50 guys, but he has trouble with one. And it's like, and John Wick's the same way. Like John Wick can shoot 50 guys, but then he gets in a fight with one guy. So I feel like that kind of down on your luck guy that can get bruised. I don't remember I don't remember heroes getting beat up until Indiana Jones.
Yeah. Yeah, flawed a little bit.
Like that
They
he's,
put him as flawed.
just kind of. So I think and again, Harrison Ford's just legendary. So to me, I can't wait for the last movie.
No, very cool.
So.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very good. I think there's a lot. Yeah, definitely a lot you could do with that. So
A lot of cool potential for that park for sure.
for sure. All right, number 6. Yep, we're on number 6.
Number 6, yes. So this is something that I actually can't believe doesn't really exist on like a full scale yet because of the fan base that all of this has. But the title for this one, I actually took from my first introduction to this genre. The name of my theme park here is called Horrorland. And this is based off the title of the R.L. Stine book, Welcome to Horrorland, which I believe
very
is number
cool.
14. And I actually own a T-shirt with the cover on it. I think that the scary movie and the horror franchises have grown so immensely over the years. There's been a cult base that has just kept it going and kept it ever so popular. My wife and I are huge horror nerds. I didn't realize how much I liked it until we started going out, and then she kind of showed me like what's good about it and like the fun stuff you can find when it comes through. And I just think it needs that praise. And I think adrenaline junkies and people who like scary stuff need like a full-scale theme park.
I completely agree.
So the 3 attractions I thought of for it, my roller coaster VR experience is the Final Destination coaster that you see in the 4th one. So it combines a visual element with you actually moving through the track and feeling like you're on the roller coaster to destruction that they do at the beginning of what I believe is the 4th movie. And it's so iconic, too, that people would want to, like, they're like, oh, I'm going to hate this so much. I'm going on it anyway. You have the Escape from Camp Crystal Lake attraction, where you have a guy who's Jason wandering around Camp Crystal Lake, and you have to make your way out at some point. It's almost like guided, but you still have your moments where you feel like you are in danger for a few minutes. And then you have an escape room attraction called Game Over, which is my Saw experience that you do. So you have a certain limit. You have, like, threatening things that are, like, coming through and stuff. But you have clues, and you can make it out without having to do any bodily harm to yourself or anything.
Well, that's
like
good.
That.
That's good.
But
What do you mean I have to saw off my own ankle to get out of here?
Exactly. I'd hate to have that job to clean up.
I
the
couldn't
ankles
go to
at the end of
anything
the
in
day.
this park.
I know.
I'd be like, nope.
Yeah.
I'd be like the movie. Nope.
Nope.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, nope.
Not going into this park. Nope.
Not doing it.
I'm this guy. I'm this guy in every horror movie.
Yeah.
I'm that guy. I'm this guy every time.
I thought of this one last week when I went home from a family party because I watched Saw 2 and I was like, dang, like people would really, like they'd kill for something like that. Like some people are just like so sick that they would just want to spend an entire day just doing that.
Yeah,
But my wife is one of those people.
Oh,
My
for
wife
sure.
is absolutely like, there's Pennywise things all over our apartment.
Yeah.
There's horror stuff.
Well, you try to get her in for October
Yeah.
to do an episode, some kind of scary movie thing.
We have a welcome mat that looks like it's like the Friends logo almost, and it has like Freddy Krueger, Jason, Pennywise. Like that's the first thing you see when you go outside.
cool.
of
That's
our
very
apartment.
cool.
But yes, Horrorland is my number 6.
I'm glad you enunciate too, because when I say horror, I tend to say horror. So
Horrorland.
Horrorland.
I
That's
know.
a different
I gotta
park.
be.
That's a different
That's
park.
you. Yeah, you get all sorts of fun stuff there.
Yeah.
You get the gift that keeps on giving when you leave.
exactly.
You don't-
Yikes.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm very careful with my enunciation.
I'm glad.
For that one.
I'm learning. I'm getting better at it. All right, very good. I have one. I think it would be a lot of fun. I actually got this idea from watching a commercial back in the early 2000s. NFL Land. All right,
Cool.
the NFL, like an NFL theme park. I got this idea. It was back when Michael Vick was at the height of his popularity. They did a ride called the Michael Vick Experience, where you remember this, where he like sat down. What do you?
Sorry, I'm just doing a whole Michael Vick thing in my
Oh,
head
you're
right
just
now.
picturing-
So I'm thinking of a different experience with Michael Vick. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Well, you used to sit in, and, like they showed this kid. He was sit in, and he was like, the lights turned on, and he's on a football field. And he's got to dodge all these things. I was like, wow, that'd be
that's cool.
kind of a cool idea to
Yep.
expand upon a theme park for. But I knew somebody was going to say it. You could do a section for every football team, right? I mean, the merchandise stuff is massive. Jerseys, hats, shirts, whatever. You can 32 sections for each theme. It'd be a pretty massive
Yep,
endeavor.
That's very cool.
Hail Mary coaster, which is basically just a their own spin on a coaster. I would probably try and get the world's biggest drop going. You know what I mean? Because obviously Hail Mary is like a big toss up in football.
Right.
Let's get the big try and get the world's biggest drop, like straight shot drop. First and 10 game simulator. I'm not sure how it would pan out. It might be like a VR kind of thing, but I think it'd be kind of cool to just have some kind of attraction on a football field. And then this one's just for shits and giggles. There's a lot more you could do with it, but a big quote of Russell Wilson's this year was Broncos Country Let's Ride. So I have the Broncos Country Let's Ride. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but Broncos Country Let's Ride.
It's not very good. It's not a very good ride.
No,
That's all I can tell you. It's a huge disappointment to most fans. It ends really quick.
Yes.
That's the main thing. About a third of the way into the ride, you realize it's not going to be a very good ride.
I never got Dan to laugh like that.
That's great.
I'm proud of this. Broncos Country, let's ride. So NFL world, there's so much you could do with it. It is a big merchandise thing,
That's
a lot
great.
of fun food and stuff.
Yep.
but
You wrote that one specifically for
I
me.
did. I
That's
knew you
really
were gonna.
cool.
I knew.
That's
I knew
awesome.
you were gonna laugh at it. So that's why
That's
I did
pretty
it.
good.
So very good.
It's the best ride ever.
Top 5?
I think we're in the top 5. I
Yes.
think I ended up counting wrong, so I'm dumping a ride. I'm dumping a park because I feel like it's just too obvious. I'm gonna here is the speaking of Horrorland, pronounced the wrong way or the correct way in my case. If it is a park, it's a park that exists
Okay.
on HBO. It's Westworld.
Oh, very
yes.
cool.
Yes, very cool.
Coffee's hitting me. I'll be
All
right
right.
back. You
We're
keep
gonna take
going.
a quick
No,
break.
You guys
Oh, you want me to keep going?
You keep
Okay,
going.
go ahead.
Yep, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah,
so
go
have you
ahead.
watched Westworld?
I'm familiar with it because my dad watched it.
So obviously Westworld, there's an old movie that Yul Brynner is in and everything. It's a good, and it was obviously inspired by the same guy, Michael Crichton, who wrote, Jurassic Park. And anyway, so in Westworld, in the show, when you go to Westworld, which is obviously a Western town,
Yes.
you show up in a very futuristic train station. You get on the train station. While you're on the train, you change into cowboy stuff. And when you get off the train, you're in Westworld. So then once you're in Westworld, you can go, and the Main Street USA of Westworld would really just be essentially just like the movie, the show, where there's there's gunfights like the old, Fantasy Island on the street, like a stunt show. And then there's shows with the women doing the kicks, and there's shops. And, and there's, it's kind of like that thing where you're walking around, and then eventually you can, get on rides to go on things like Kilimanjaro safaris. There definitely would be a trackless ride, which would give you the experience of the moment in the first season when all the hosts start killing the humans. So there's definitely a thing where you're in a cart and you're trying to get out of Westworld and you're being chased. But then I like another ride that would be kind of it would almost be I almost think it's like a Jungle Cruise type ride, or even the Great Movie Ride type thing, like a trackless ride, where you go through all the other parks that are supposed to be existing around where Westworld is, like Nazi World, Samurai World, India World, etc.
Yeah.
And then you could even come up with some things where you're seeing some some almost like the stuff you see at Epcot, where you see different countries and different periods in time that would make really good amusement parks within history. So that was kind of but the Westworld one is obviously, the funny thing about Westworld is because people go there and they have sex with robots. So
Yes.
I don't have that in the park because that seems like that would be
Damn.
illegal. I feel like
Yeah,
that park would probably not be such a good idea.
And unsanitary, I feel
Yeah,
like.
I don't want the cleanup job in that part. and Christian and I love Westworld. We are ridiculously Westworld fans. We loved every season of it.
The episodes I've seen, I've loved.
Well, HBO doesn't do very many bad TV shows, and the way they kind of let the show kind of evolve over time. And it was funny because it didn't get picked up for another season. And Christian and I were we kind of like where it ended, the way it ended.
Sure.
But the actors and the performances on the show are tremendous. So, I definitely think because it's a real, in television, it's a real park. So I'd love to see, kind of the same like you did with Jurassic Park. I'd like to see Westworld.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, you could do a lot. HBO does a lot of stuff you could make a park. HBO Land might be
HBO Land, you could have all their different things.
I don't know how much I want to go in the Sopranos section of that park.
It's like just a gangster ride.
Seriously.
Very good.
Oh, man. My number 5 is something that kind of already exists, but I want it all kind of uniform in one place. Right now we're in the whole era of the switch of Marvel from Fox and all the other properties all to Disney. So everything is still very scattered. My idea is for a park that's just Marvel Earth, right? So it's just all the Marvel characters all in one place. However, the division of it is based on how the planet works and where you would find them on the planet. So you have a New York section, you have a California section. So You'd find Spider-Man and Daredevil in New York. You'd find Iron Man in California.
Very
you could
cool.
have Canada and find the Hulk and
Just do a
Wolverine
Wakanda
up there.
section.
You could have Wakanda. You could have all those different sections, so that it's like you're actually going to the areas of the earth that you would find these superheroes.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that.
like Doctor
Which-
Strange's Sanctum things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'd find him in New York too. He maybe like pops up all over the place too.
Right.
Like you could have those crossovers. Like you could even have a Europe and have like Doctor Doom over there and things like that. The 3 rides that I thought of that I would love to see, just based on like typical Marvel lore and the things we've seen in the universe already. I would love a Spider-Man swing through the city.
Yep.
Where you do like a VR experience and swing through New York and like maybe get in a fight or two or like things like that.
That would be
I
cool.
think that would be. I think every person who's loved Spider-Man growing up would kill for the opportunity.
And
to
again,
do
it
that.
doesn't have to be a specific Spider-Man too.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
You can mix it up. Absolutely.
Hawkeye's battle for New York. I picked Hawkeye specifically because, one, he doesn't get enough love, especially after
No, he
that
does
show,
not.
because I thought that they did really well with him in his show when
100%.
they
For sure,
put
I
that
agree
out.
with that.
But I also picked him because you could really have fun with him in the Battle of New York. You could have a bow and arrow sequence of some kind where you're hitting the aliens as you go, right?
Right.
Get a score
Could be another
based
cool
on how
VR
many
experience,
You're
absolutely.
pulling through. And then this one is just for me. This one is specifically for me because I feel like I've been adding like shows and attractions through this. You have the Captain America Show for the Troops attraction.
Oh, that's
Oh,
cool.
that's
Where
great.
it's his
That's hilarious.
show that they're using from the first Captain America
Right.
movie, where they're keeping him real corny and keeping him on the sidelines and things like that. I think that would be so fun to just like be able to go by that world. And you're like, what is this? What are they doing right now? And seeing a guy dressed in like the crappy,
You got like the Andrew sisters in
yeah,
there, and
exactly,
you know,
like
doing
like,
jokes with Bob Hope. and
Oh
stuff
man, it'd be
like-
so funny. It'd be so funny
Right.
just to have
That
like,
would be
those little
great.
Easter eggy things thrown
Right.
in there. They've done such a good job. I had a great time at Universal when I went. I'm sure the Marvel attractions they're adding at Disney are so amazing too. But as a superhero fan, I want it all in one place.
Yes.
Like Marvel's so cool that I would love to just be able to see everything. at once.
Centralize it.
Yeah. So Marvel Earth is my Marvel theme park.
I did Marvel as well, and pretty much the same concept. That it's such a big universe, right? And there's so many characters now, and I think it's only I would not be surprised if they go through with this within the next 10 to 15 years.
I think contractually, once they're able to acquire more characters, because I've been reading a little bit about this with Disney, why they haven't, and that's why they had to do why they chose to do Guardians of the Galaxy, because it wasn't something that they were allowed to do whatever they want with that property,
Right.
Because it's not part of the Sony stuff. It was completely left out. So that's why they focused on Guardians of the Galaxy, because it was something easy for them to do. And then even like doing, like what's it called, Marvel Avenger Campus.
Oh, there's some.
Those are
yeah,
things
yep.
that they can do now because things are starting to. But I definitely think that we're going to eventually get, because of the size of the properties and the amount of money that they're making, they're definitely going to be. I think in Hollywood studios we're going to get a Marvel land.
I think
eventually.
you
I think
have
it's just
to.
a question of time.
The movies are so big now. Like it's tough when it's just a comic book or something because it's a very specific audience. But now, I talk to people who never read comic books in their life, but they still go and watch the Marvel movies. It's massive. It's huge. The characters are as popular right now, if not more popular than a lot of established Disney characters.
So do you are these versions of the characters, are they comic books or are they?
You could probably mix
live
it up,
action?
but I would probably say do variation to live action because it's what more people know.
Right.
You can still, I would say, you can still include comic elements, but yeah, I basically had this almost the same idea. I didn't have the location thing, which I thought was pretty cool, but there are different sections. Obviously, you could have
Right.
like you do the X-Men mansion or
That would be awesome.
the Wakanda section. I really liked, but I liked your way of splitting it up the different regions. I had an Infinity Gauntlet coaster, and basically what my thought of it was probably more so like the dinosaur ride, where it's like there's a whole lot of shaking and moving, but your job is to get all the Infinity Stones before Thanos, and
Right.
the dinosaur ride was cool because here's this dinosaur over here, this dinosaur over here. Okay, here's a couple scenes, and oh shit, there's the Reality Stone, or there's the Power Stone, or just
Yeah, if
variety
it's one of
stuff.
those rides where it comes into a room and then you see like Cap get the infinity, whatever stone or whatever, and then then it goes through and it gets that'd be cool.
Yeah, pretty surreal. This is the other shrinking ride that I mentioned. All right.
That's such a good idea.
Ant-Man, like a Quantumania ride.
That's such
Love
a good
it.
idea. That's a really good ride.
Love it.
I'm on that ride already. I'm already picturing it.
We're already picturing it. There's so much. Quantum Realm is becoming so much important.
Because it's funny too. Because it's going to be funny too.
Yes, because it's Paul Rudd and Ant-Man. Which is great. I mean, obviously, Quantumania it's going to be a big part of the Ant-Man movie coming up. They went into the quantum realm to go back in time for Endgame. It's a massive part of all this.
Yep.
So you kind of go back into that. And then I did a Guardians of the Galaxy ride, which is really cool. Just because I wanted a cosmic-based ride, Guardians are super popular still. But there's a lot you could do. You could do something based on Asgard, which would be really beautiful to see. So, yeah, I'm glad you had a Marvel one as well.
Can I have one request?
What's up?
Yeah.
I want a shawarma food cart.
Ooh,
Done.
yes.
It's done.
Absolutely. I think you have to.
I don't know what it is, but I want to try it. I just love that line. It's just iconic.
That was when they did that post-credit scene where they were eating shawarma.
Just sitting there eating shawarma.
I'm like,
it's great.
Best.
and you're really contemplating, did I really sit through all the credits for that? But then you sit and think back, I'm like, wow, that's good.
And with Chris Evans covering his face because he had a mustache.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, it's
That's
beautiful.
great.
So
That's
shawarma
amazing.
stand, it's sold. There's got to be some kind of tribute to Stan Lee in there too. So.
I love it.
Oh yeah.
Isn't it amazing?
Well,
how
like
far,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Isn't it amazing how far superhero movies have come to the point where you and I, and I'm sure with what you're talking about with Super Friends and things like that. We've all loved superheroes from the beginning, and some people aren't involved. I'll never forget after I saw the Incredible Hulk, the Ed Norton one, and they were kind of setting up for Avengers. I said to one of my friends, I told him that's what they were doing eventually, and that's what it meant. And he, made fun. I think his exact words were, "Oh, no, the Avengers, who are they going to fight? The Tooth Fairy?" And now he texts me all the time, who do you think would win in a fight, Iron Man or, this person or whatever? Now he's just in this realm of, so many people are in the same place where they're teach me. When it comes to, our group of, actually knowing the things in the background.
That's amazing.
I remember saying to, one of my friends when The Incredibles came out, and you started to see what they were doing with animation and, the CGI animation that you get in Pixar. I said to one of my friends, I don't remember who, was we've gotten to the point they can apply that to regular filmmaking.
Yes.
We're going to start getting real superhero movies now that are really good, and that kind of obviously I think Spider-Man might have already been out by then, but we got to that point where once that first Spider-Man and that first X-Men came out, you kind of knew where we were headed, and I just wish they would have gotten back to the real costumes quicker instead of these afraid to wear the spandex and stuff like that. I kind of like that DC never kind of got away from that. They stayed with Batman. Always looked like Batman, except for the nipple costume, but the rest of them are. Definitely.
They embraced what their source material, and that was a big problem with X-Men. I did not like the black suits. I
understand why within the context of that time, because they weren't sure how that was going to be responded. I think if Hugh Jackman shows up in a purple suit, we don't think of Wolverine the way we think of Wolverine now.
Fair. Yeah.
That's definitely.
But it wasn't for Hugh Jackman, I'm not sure we'd have the superhero universe that we have now. Him and Patrick Stewart. I think regardless of some of those movies not being some of the X-Men movies being good, I feel like that Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman gave us a superhero universe that we all wanted to be we got into superheroes in a cool way again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was too young to watch Blade, so X-Men was my first one that I got to.
I always
watch.
forget about Blade because it's not written like a comic book at all.
No,
it's
not.
It's just a vampire movie.
Yeah,
that happens to have the same character.
X-Men was all ages; everybody could enjoy it, and everybody knew X-Men. So, that was tremendous. But that's a good point.
So was Spider-Man too. You had mentioned the Incredibles before. Spider-Man was so popular that when they did that train scene in Spider-Man 2, they parodied that in Incredibles.
Right.
Where he's holding the train back and then hanging off at the end. You could tell what direction we were moving in as far as everybody knowing the iconic moments in superhero
And it set the
movies.
standard. You look back at some of those older ones, and I know we're going a little off topic, but they seem so dated. Some of them didn't age very well. A lot of the ones that we used to hold in high regard.
Right.
So, yeah. But, all right.
What do we got left?
This is number 4.
We have 4 left. Let me double check my numbers here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I do have 4 left.
Perfect.
All right, so I'm going to do this one, get it out of the way, because it's probably not my favorite on the list. I think I could have done more with this one. I think I just ran out of ideas, or I must have been doing it too late in the evening or something. But I think we need a James Bond park.
Cool.
Spy Park, I like it.
Definitely, I just want a casino. I want to be able to walk into a James Bond casino. Not Seneca Niagara, not the Paris. And I want to walk into like Baccarat. And I know they have it, but I want like everybody who works there to like look like people I want Bond villains playing cards at the table. I want a guy with a patch and a scar, and I want a martini shaken not stirred. Like you can have the non-alcoholic version of it too for the kids. And I want to have that. And then like I said, almost like again, where then things starts happening. There's a fight. Like when you go to like like the one we have downtown Niagara Falls, like the
Seneca Niagara?
No, the restaurant, the food, the restaurant with
top
the
of the falls
or
the steakhouse, the Thunder.
No, like the one that's the thing, like the it's a jungle. It's the
Rainforest
Cafe. I want
God,
things to come alive in the walls, and I want I want like a guy come in with a suitcase and look around. Like I want the waiter to be like almost like he's a spy, and like I feel like it could be a very cool interactive restaurant. My one ride is a thing where you're helping James Bond, and it's a combination of the skiing as well as going underwater.
Okay.
Because both movies have so much snow, ice, and underwater stuff. Way too much in my mind, but I love the James Bond movies. And then the other one is, again, like it's probably just like my Batmobile ride. It's the Aston Martin ride. But this ride's cool because you go into, what's the M5? You go into the building.
Oh, cool.
You go into their MI6 headquarters, and first you get into a thing, and you talk to Q. I don't care which Q you give me. You could give me John Cleese Q. I don't care which Q you give me. And you see all the gadgets in the queue. While you're waiting, you're in the queue with Q. Get it? Mm-hmm. So you're seeing all like the jetpack. You're seeing some actual props from the movies.
Good idea, yeah.
And then you finally get in the ride, and then you get Dame Judith Dench.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm sending you on a mission, you dinosaurs. And you get into your little expanded Aston Martin thing, and you go through a James Bond. You're helping James Bond on a mission.
I love that idea.
I love that.
So I really, again, it's to me just a tremendous universe, and there's just so much in it.
There's a rich history. I mean, it's cool. It's legit. Like it's like watching like a new pope get selected, who becomes the new James Bond, right? They cycle out every couple of years. Who's gonna be the new Bond? Who's gonna be the new Bond?
Yeah.
And it's an honor. The world watches. So
Right.
I think a theme park would do it justice.
I think it would be
bring
excellent.
It full circle.
Yeah.
So
Who's the best Bond in your mind?
It's kind of like what flavor of ice cream I like.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm Sean Connery is great, but the problem with watching a Sean Connery movie, you're like, it's kind of cringy sometimes now when you watch some of the James Bond. But I still like the Sean Connery. I really like Pierce Brosnan.
I did too.
I think he's totally underappreciated. I wish we could have got him instead of Timothy Dalton.
Yes.
Not that Timothy Dalton was bad, but I think if we would have got we would have got Pierce Brosnan a little bit earlier, he would have had a better impact on the thing on the franchise. But I think pound for pound, I know he's a little dark and everything, but I just think Daniel Craig just nails it.
He just blows it out.
Yeah,
of the water.
I just like. I mean, if I'm at home and I'm flipping channels, and who does that anymore? But if I see like there's a James Bond thing, I'm just sitting there and watching James Bond.
Same with
But
my dad.
Daniel Craig is so good because I love the way they rebooted the universe, and I just hope I'm really hoping they Dread Pirate Roberts James Bond at this point. Mm-hmm. I am hoping that we don't really get a new James Bond. We get a new guy who's James Bond, and we don't have to say that he's not James Bond. But we understand now that James Bond is just a code name because it's going to be the rest of the cast is going to be the same. Yeah. It's going to be the same Q. It's going to be the same M. But we saw him die. So how do you keep all those people? Not James, because obviously she's gone. Ralph Fuentes is the new M. So M and Q and the other guy, and even if you keep the same Moneypenny, and even the woman that was who became 008. I would love just to continue. And they just say yada, yada, yada. Well, hey, it's James Bond. And then no one even talks about it.
I love that.
And just keep going. Because that's really what they kind of did before. No one noticed. You weren't. Wait a second. How come you don't look like Sean Connery anymore? Like, just keep it going. Just Private Roberts. That James Bond is a code name at this point, in honor of the first dude.
Absolutely.
That's how I would love that. You know.
Mm-hmm. I think that's great. I think you have a real good idea when it comes to that. Yeah, I think you and my dad would get along when it comes to this topic a lot. My number 4, you're gonna hate me for a second, and then I'm gonna bring you right back out of it.
Okay.
So it's an entire theme park dedicated to Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Thank you, because
Oh.
if it was the other one,
Not,
I actually had this on my list,
Mm.
and I took it off because I realized that it would be insulting to an amazing property because I don't know it as well as I should. I watched it with my kids, but I'm out of date with Avatar. So if I decided, I purposely took it off the list, but I'm so glad you're handling it because you'll actually do it the justice it
that's
deserves.
fair. That's fair, and I kind of appreciate your explanation of that too, because if I pick things for my list that I don't know tons about, then I feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah, if Christian was
presenting
here,
the
he'd be
topic.
like, "Oh, that's the coolest idea ever."
Man,
He'd be like,
I love that show so much. The closest American thing to anime ever. Such a solidly written story and such a cool world that people have just fallen in love with since
they're just
inception.
really, really good characters.
Yes.
And, you know, it's funny because I remember when we first started watching, when the boys were whatever age it was, and they'd grown up and they was kind of like, they were still watching Pokemon, but this was a different thing. And I just assumed that was just another piece of crap like Pokemon. And then I'm like, oh, this is really cool. And everything, all the universe building behind Avatar.
Yeah.
And obviously I just love the research and the way they designed it. It is an amazing, but that's what are the rides?
It's gorgeous. Yeah. So you the park would be laid out like the nations. So you go to the poor
That's exactly what I was
Right. So you go to the poles for the water benders.
This is the best.
You go to the Earth Kingdom and see the Earth things, right? And then you'd have air temples that you could pop through.
So cool.
So my first, like my ride is it's a tie between two that I think you could do just as equally. You could do a virtual glider ride with Aang, right, and see everything, or you could also do an Omashu roller coaster because they have like a mail delivery system through it with these carts. So you could just ride through Omashu because he used to do that with his friends when he was a kid. So it's a big part of like that series. When I was at Universal and I was in Diagon Alley and when I was at the Harry Potter Castle, you have interactive points that you could use your wand for. You could buy the wand and have the interactive points. I want bending points in this park so that you do a certain action or a specific motion. You could bend fire, you could bend water,
man.
you could
That's
do
very
some
cool.
of that kind of air thing. I think it would be so freaking cool to have something like that. And even just for a second believe like, I got that. Like I did that for a second. That was cool. And then I want a whole Spirit World section of the Avatar park as well. Avatar is so good at incorporating combinations of animals and all these cool different creatures and things like that. And when they go to the Spirit World, there's like a real disconnect, and you get to see all these like really weird things walking around. So I want that section where you find some way going to the Spirit World.
I want to walk around, and I want a walking around Appa.
Yeah, me too. I would love that too.
My favorite character from Avatar is Appa. This ridiculous, oversized flying bison. And it's funny, in our house, this shows how much Avatar has permeated the culture in our house. We still say, "Shut up, Chatty Monkey." Like we still make references, "Quiet, Chatty Monkey," from the one episode where it's just an iconic line from the show, and we still use it. It's probably been said in our house a billion times since 17 years ago, whenever the first time we heard it. So I just love this idea. I just, that's why I'm glad you did it, because you definitely did it justice.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's a great show for anybody of all ages, like going through any period of time.
What do you think about what's coming out with it? How are you feeling about what's coming out with it?
So they just announced that they're doing like a third season that focuses around an earthbender. I don't mind them taking another route with like the cartoon things and like developing a new show like that, because I did like Korra. A lot of people had different opinions on Korra. I thought some of it was really well done. Thought it was so different, but I thought you needed to make it different than the original Avatar because they can't be the same things.
Right. No, I agree with that.
The live action stuff, I'm losing more and more faith in.
Christian said the same thing. He's worried about it.
Because the original writers went away from the room, that's what gives me the most pause. Is like they're like, okay, we're gonna go work on some other stuff right now.
Yeah, that's what he said.
They're all in like school together, which I think is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like, my problem with redoing something that's already been done perfectly is you can't recreate that.
Right.
Essentially, right?
Right.
You just can't do it. And I think Avatar is one of the best written shows. In fact, on my podcast, my brother and I went through each season and did almost like a tournament style with each episode, and
Right.
we compared and narrowed down the 3 best episodes, so one from each season. Whereas some shows, like, it's very obvious what the best and worst episodes are. There's so much to love about everything within it that it really would benefit to have something really big that fans can flock to for it.
Right.
They'd love it. They'd
No,
love it.
I agree. I think it's cool.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Very
Well
good.
done on that one.
Very good.
Matt, you're number 4, sir.
Oh boy, it's getting more difficult.
I know.
But I these are just ones that I just dreaming of. I have probably one super obvious one left, and then there's 3 that are might be a little new. I'm gonna do. We're going to go to Middle Earth for a Lord of the Rings theme
good idea.
park.
Good idea.
It's super popular. There's so much stuff. Obviously, I mean, Lord of the Rings has been popular. Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, of course, been popular since Tolkien wrote the books. But I mean, what another beautiful like world, like a built-up world with so much lore. I used to love reading Return of the King. The back of the book had like history and like big events that happen year by year in different spots, like a whole timeline of the build-up to everything. Man, there's so much you could do. You get a Shire section, all right, nice little Happy Hobbiton. You go in the Shire, that's like your like a restaurant area. You got a Rivendell section, where it's just beautiful, and then of course you get some of the other places. My 3 attractions for it would be a Mount Doom coaster.
Okay.
All right,
Very
just
cool.
trying to climb up, to it. It would probably be a scenic indoor coaster. Maybe I don't know if I'd do it. Maybe an outdoor one. It depends. I'd really want to have that dark ambience to it, and I think you'd lose a little bit of the luster if you do a Mount Doom coaster and it's 75 and sunny outside. But this is the dwarf ride. I told you I was going to rip off the 7 dwarves. Journey through the Mines of Moria.
Okay.
All right, do the little ride with that. Of course, there's so much gold, but you have orcs and a giant cave troll and the Balrog.
That's very cool.
Which I thought would be neat. And then this one, as soon as I seen this scene in a movie, I think this is from the second Hobbit movie, I was like, this is a ride. The Barrel Escape.
The barrel escape.
Yes.
Yeah, I figured you were going to have the barrel escape.
Yeah, I actually just threw that one. I had the Great Eagle thing, kind of like a Soarin' thing originally, and
Right.
I was like, wait a second. The Barrel Escape.
The
was
barrel
really
escape,
cool.
especially if you do it like that ride you like from Animal Kingdom, with that's the
Yes, the Kali River Rapids.
the Colorado Rapids.
Yeah, so I mean, you just sit in a barrel, just go. You're going through like I forgot which Elvish area that is specifically, but
I think it's Nashville, Elvis.
Yes.
Oh, Elfish.
Elfish.
Sorry.
Elvish.
Sorry.
Elvish.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
No, you didn't.
the
You
Yiddish
didn't
like-
reply to that one.
Like my favorite cartoon is Peanuts, but I usually say it and I leave the T out apparently because I have terrible diction.
Hey, Horland,
Land peanuts, peanuts, not penis land. It's peanuts land.
Oh, man.
Gotta get the T in there.
got
Gotta
to.
careful.
You got to.
That's a whole different park. Penis land goes with horror land.
Yes,
That's right.
They're kitty corner from
yeah.
each other.
They're opposite sides of the same park.
But yeah, man, Lord of the Rings would be crazy. I
That's
think
a great universe.
right. There's, just a lot. Now let's go to was it Bree? I think it is for the tavern with the prancing
Yeah.
pony.
Yeah.
And all like there's just so much regionalized and just fun stuff you could do. I would love to go through like a simulated like Helm's Deep. All right, let's go through a
that'd be
minute
so
a
cool.
built set of Helm's Deep that you can navigate through, and there's. Oh man, just so much stuff, and there's a lot of room for activity. You talked about the Hawkeye thing. Let's do a Legolas, Elven bow and arrow.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So
Very cool.
So Lord of the Rings, that's my number 4.
All right, so number 3, I didn't count wrong, so I don't have to leave this off. I decided I know that it kind of exists, but I feel like you can do so much more and you can do it better. So I want Star Wars Land.
Excellent.
And I want to, here's my rides. I actually have three rides, but I want a Star Tours ride, but you're in an X-Wing.
Cool.
And there's more lighting.
Yeah.
So you're flying around, and it's definitely a roller coaster, but you definitely go through a trench, and you do spins, and you can see other because as you're on the tracks, you're going to see like other X-Wings flying around and TIE fighters and stuff, and plus they could have video projections. So I definitely think you could feel like you were in the Battle of Yavin. Like you could definitely do the Battle of Yavin starfight.
Yeah.
Death Star, and you literally press the button in your car or whatever, and you blow up the Death Star right before you get out of there. You can see Han Solo, yippee, and you hear it over the radio in your car. You don't actually see the whatever, but something like that. Definitely got to have a pod racer kind of ride. Probably ripped off from my other one where you're racing. It's kind of like Test Track, but you're building a pod racer and then you ride it.
So we have two same rides right now.
This is the one that I'm most proud of, though, that I really want. I want a trackless ride, and I want it to be in Clone Wars.
Okay.
But I want it in animation style. I do not want live action anything.
Very cool.
I want to go through because it's the arguably one of the best Star Wars things out there. If you ranked everything in Star Wars, I'm putting Clone Wars probably top 5. Not Attack of the Clones, the Clone Wars series, especially seasons 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah.
And I want to have that. I want to be on the ride where I'm interacting with the animated. I want those voices. I don't want Samuel L. Jackson. I want those characters. I mean, I really think like that would be really cool if you're doing that trackless ride, but it's in the style of that Clone Wars thing. And then walking around the parks, I just wish they did more of this. There's got to be a way to do it where there's just like, I don't want just like shows. I want Rex walking around. I want an old guy walking around like the Rex from like Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
I want Fives. I know he's dead, but I want Fives walking around. I want Hondo walking. I want a Hondo store. I want droids wandering around in the
How
park.
great it'd be to walk around R2-D2's just rolling by you. Or
I just
BB-8.
want them.
Yeah.
I want them just wandering around. There's got to be a way to do it where they could just be wandering around, and you know, especially if they're in little tiny areas where they're just, and it's not like a show. They're just moving around. Like especially there's so many cool droids, and obviously you could do some full size things too. Like I don't need to see Darth Vader. I just like to see I would like to see just more Wookiees walking, just more of that. Like they do a little bit of it, but I feel like they could do so much more.
Yeah.
So obviously you have some Star Wars stuff too, right?
I mean, kind of cutting past you.
Please. Go for it.
So yes, I mean, Star Wars was probably the easiest one to have on here, in my estimation. But like you said, I was like, oh, do I do it? But yeah, let's do a full theme park. You could do certain sections, like maybe a giant section, like one planet per movie or something like that, or one of the major ones. I did have the X-Wing, the trench run. I'm doing it coaster style. This is going to be like Space Mountain. You know what I mean? You're flying around. There's TIE fighters.
Yeah.
And you can see other like people in the rides as X-Wing fighters in the track. And then I want to do a nice long...
Cover me, Porkins.
Cover me, Porkins. I love Porkins. Where you're actually, the final stretch where you're actually running through the trench run. Like that's going to be the final coaster.
Right, exactly.
And, they're tailing with a TIE fighter and like you said, the button. The Pod Racer Simulator. I love the pod racing stuff. I actually played an arcade game I talked about this a couple episodes ago. I believe, where in Disney at one of the resorts, their arcade, you actually sat in a pod and you got to play it.
Right.
I'd like to find a way to make that bigger.
I remember that video game. That was a great video game.
It's a
you
fantastic
sat in
video
like
game.
Anakin's podcast.
Yes, the podcast. Pod racer.
Podcast racer.
Podcast.
Oh my God.
We've been doing this too long.
I know.
Punch drunk.
But yeah, they find a way to make it competitive.
Yeah.
And have really fun with it. I do have an alternate number 3, though. I think you guys would really appreciate this. My favorite Star Wars game series has bare minimum to do with the Jedi or the Sith, but it has to do with various soldiers. I want to do a Star Wars Battlefront laser tag arena.
Oh, that's really cool.
3 separate sections.
That's very cool.
3 separate sections. Well, you can maybe do more, but right now I have 3. So they're based on different spots, and you can be, you get split into teams. All right, you're the dark side. You're this. You do an Endor one,
Yep.
All right, you dial it up with trees and stuff. All right,
Excellent.
Hoth, which I think would be really tremendous. And I'll give another one. I'll do something with a prequel trilogy. Let's say Geonosis.
Oh
All right,
my
let's
God,
say
you read my
Geonosis.
mind on that one.
I mean, there's a couple you could do. You could do
But
Naboo.
Geonosis
Or even the
would be
temple
awesome.
from,
Jedi-
the whatever.
Yeah, you could do the Jedi Temple, which would be really
Yep.
cool to see. But I think you could do have a lot of fun with it. You got to have people keeping an eye because some people might get a little crazy. But how cool would it be to get dialed up in Star Wars stuff and go out and have a massive laser tag game in a
Excellent.
specific design? Like we go to Lasertron here, and it's pretty cool. Imagine what a massive theme park with a lot of money could do with a franchise like Star Wars,
Yeah.
and open that sucker up. I mean, obviously, there might be a fun way to do vehicles, maybe stationary things or whatnot. But my God, I've been dreaming of that since I've been a kid. Like I used to have all these bold ideas. Used to write them down in a notebook, and I was like, man, what about a Star Wars theme park or some kind of indoor laser tag thing? And they have the Battlefront property, and there's a lot you could do with it. So,
No,
yeah,
for sure.
that would be mine. Just pretty much expanding everything that they've done with Star Tours and the Star Wars Galaxy they just added a couple years ago, and just really blowing that sucker up. So the Star Wars is my that'd be my number 3.
I love it.
Dan, you're number 3.
So this is my answer to your Middle Earth-ish kind of one. Because it's similar but different, and I had to include this on here. Like I said, I had 2 video game-based ones. And when I was reading my list to Julie earlier, my wife, she had said, "Oh, I'm surprised that that Kingdom Hearts got left off your list."
Yeah,
But I didn't do that on purpose because we have Disney World.
that's true.
You
Technically
know,
true. Technically
because
true.
like technically a lot of the worlds you could find in Kingdom Hearts, you have sections of at Disney.
that's
already.
fair. Yeah.
So I didn't want to do that. However, one franchise deserves its own theme park, and that's The Legend of Zelda. So Legend of Zelda Land
yes.
is the one I'm pitching for it. There's so many different games that you could pull different attractions from and different parts of the park from. You could literally have a section based on each video game if you wanted
Technically,
to, or
yeah.
like different video games. But my 3 attractions I thought of are the glider experience. Breath of the Wild, you use the glider like crazy.
Yeah.
So you have a VR experience where you're floating through Hyrule and doing things like that, which could be really interactive and really cool. You have a Hyrule Field safari where you go through on like a cart or a coaster or a Jeep, and you see all the creatures that are in Hyrule Field. It can scroll between day and night, so you could see some of the creepier things too, depending on what you want to do. And then you can have interactive things. For example, I picked the Great Deku Tree from Ocarina of Time.
Okay.
Where you just go inside a giant tree and you could actually explore the different like temples and different parts of it that you
That
would
would
see
be
in
tremendous.
video games.
That's very cool.
But there's tons of stuff you could do too. When the Wii came out and the Wii Zapper came out, there was a game for it called Link's Crossbow Training.
Yep.
That came with it, where you could like shoot targets and stuff like that. You could absolutely do like the Legolas thing or the Hawkeye thing that I was talking about
sure.
earlier with stuff like that. It has potential to do so many cool things, especially with all the creatures in it.
As long as we get a fishing mini game.
Absolutely. That's a Ponds
I don't know.
Incorporated. It has to be.
Of course. I don't know what it is about video games, but I love fishing mini games.
Oh, they're the best.
That's cool.
So that's good.
Yeah, so Legend of Zelda Land comes in at my number 3.
I think that's a good answer to the Lord of the Rings one, and I think it's a I mean, obviously one of the greatest, most revered video game franchises of all time.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
excellent
I agree.
choice.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Maranto, you're number 2.
Okay, so the next 2 are my 2 favorite things in all my fandoms.
Avatar.
I'm going to kick myself out. This is my second favorite property of all time, and it's Doctor Who. Because Doctor Who has just been such a part of my life. My wife always picks on me. She's like, "You're not English, you know." But I mean, I would, and when we went to England, we went purposely to Wales, to Cardiff, so we could see where they filmed Torchwood, and because they do all the production for Doctor Who back then in Cardiff. So we got to go to a restaurant that's actually on the show. So we did a bunch of those things where we go around, and they had a Doctor Who experience, and it's like a walkthrough experience. It's not a ride; it was a walkthrough thing, which I think would be great. So I do picture that this park would have to be in England, and I don't feel like it would be a huge park. I feel it'd be kind of like it's a very condensed thing because there's not a lot of things that would be rides because it's not really an action show. But I think more like, again, escape room type things and stuff like that. But there are some things I would definitely like. First of all, obviously the TARDIS is bigger on the inside. So you got to have a haunted mansion kind of entrance into the TARDIS. So you walk into a TARDIS and then they do a thing. So you turn around and all of a sudden, like, you know how it stretches and all that. All of a sudden you turn and you're in the bridge of the TARDIS, as they call it. And then from there you get into a cart like, Haunted Mansion, and you go through a ride and you see Daleks and you see Cybermen and you see all the Weeping Angels and even Blink. There's a lot of different things they could do with strobe lights and stuff for the silence and some of the other creatures that are from the earlier generation. But I'd love to see like all the different from out the Doctor Who time frame, and I think it'd be a really cool ride, and you're just kind of seeing them. You don't have to really do anything with them. It'd just be kind of a cool ride just to see. But again, you can do a lot of cool like special effects, again, with strobe lights and stuff to kind of do some of the stuff that would really make it interesting. Like they have in Star Wars Edge of the whatever it's called, you gotta have instead of a lightsaber place, you have a sonic screwdriver place.
Of course.
Where you can go in and you can buy legit cool looking Doctor Who sonic screwdrivers.
Or make your own.
Yeah.
And
definitely, and they're not cheap plasticky crap things. They're like the ones like, that, and it'd be a lot easier to carry those around than those lightsabers that people carry around when you go to Star Wars. I definitely think that. And the other one, again, is ripped off from the superhero one. I would love a Hall of the Doctors where you go and you sit down and they have animatronics of all the doctors, and you could even have the masters in there and stuff too. And it would be like, so you'd have Hartnell, you'd have Matt, and again, they're all animatronics, but I definitely think a show that talks about Gallifrey and the history of Doctor Who, but it's basically each doctor, and they get to interact with each other, and there'd be a lot of cool ways. There's so much content. I'm sure they could find all the audio for it to be done.
Oh yeah.
And I would love just to sit in a room and have them just talk about the history of Doctor Who, and and I just think that's kind of that would be like, again, I don't think it'd be a huge park, but I feel like a Doctor Who themed experience, like it wouldn't need to be a big place, but I would go to it. I think most of us Doctor Who fans would go and look for it.
Mm-hmm. I have a Doctor Who game on the Oculus, and it's really cool because you actually, you actually have to go in. You can actually go in the TARDIS. You got to do some stuff to move the thing.
Oh, that's cool.
And there's a lot of puzzles and stuff. And I think I'm not the biggest Doctor Who fan. My wife adores it. I would appreciate something like that. There's a lot of fun. There's a lot of going back in time. Right, there's the Van Gogh painting with the TARDIS and stuff like that. My wife, she actually had a poster of that.
So cool.
There's a lot you could do with it. There's a lot of range when it comes to history and Doctor Who. It has a deep lore to it.
There's so many rides where you're interacting. You could interact with historical figures, with different doctors, and kind of like, again, like the Great Movie Ride kind of thing. There's so many cool things you could do with it.
We'll call it the Hall of Who.
Hall of Who.
Instead of the Hall. Yeah. I love it. So very good.
Academy.
Very good. Cool. I knew that was coming. All right. Dano, you're number 2.
This kind of exists already, but the nerd in me just wants so much more of it. When I was at Universal last year, man, their Harry Potter section is very close to being good, but I need a full Hogwarts.
Yeah.
I need a full Hogwarts. The one of the most disappointing things was going in the castle and realizing you only kind of got to go through certain parts and then just get to the one ride, and you couldn't really do anything else with it. Come on, man. We need everything that has to do with this. This is such a magical world that people have devoted their lives to now.
Yeah.
Like, people have devoted their lives to Harry Potter things and, like, diving into the lore of this world that is from one person's mind that now everybody shares the same exact image of. Me and my in-laws, like, we kind of make it a point to do different Harry Potter things because my sister-in-law absolutely loves it.
Yeah.
So this is kind of specifically for them too, and it's for me because I would love to see some of this stuff in real life. The 3 attractions that I thought of that you can't see at Universal, I want a real Chamber of Secrets like they do in the second one. I want to be able to have the sink move. It'd be cool that you have some kind of slide or something that you could go down to access it. And you get down there, you could really explore. There's really a basilisk. There's a code word that you can say to open the door up to get to it, right? Cool stuff like that. The VR experience could be Buckbeak taking a flight, like from the third movie, being on his back and soaring through everything like that, having to get his respect beforehand. And this last one, I'm stealing from an experience I actually just had when I went on my trip 2 weekends ago. But I want a Forbidden Forest. I went down to I can't remember which section it was but it was Virginia, D.C. It was right in that area. And they had a Forbidden Forest experience that's only on until I think it just ended this week.
Oh, no kidding.
But it was the coolest freaking thing I've ever done. It had like every little station that you would want to see from those movies. There was a really cool unicorn effect that they did. They had censures. They had a Buckbeak exhibit. You could cast your own Patronus at a station. There's so much cool stuff you could do, but they need it all in one place.
Yeah.
And they need it really, like, I don't care how much money it costs. People would pay for it. They would. They would save their entire lives to go to this place.
Oh,
and
for
just
sure.
Spend a couple of days there. Harry Potter fans need the full-fledged Harry Potter experience.
I feel like the Star Wars hotel thing experience, which is a whole separate attraction.
Yeah.
I feel like if you had that immersive kind of thing for Harry Potter, you would fill it. I think probably even easier than Star Wars is doing, because I feel like Harry Potter is of a family thing, and you could have like it's not as intense.
No, it's not.
It's more puzzle driven and stuff like that. That
Yeah.
I think which would be really interesting.
Yeah, I think it would be so awesome. And everything that I've been to that has to do with it already is very, very good. But I'm just selfish and I want more, man.
The only request I would, one would be have to learn how to do a broom ride.
Yes,
I'd have to do that. And then you have to have a restaurant that's the Great Hall pretty much in Hogwarts.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
You'd be a little close to other people, but I mean, just to kind of sit there and that'd be
it's like going
the aesthetic though.
It's like going to Hoffer House up in Buffalo.
Oh,
yes,
like
absolutely.
Like going to that. So.
Which would be tremendous.
Cool.
So very good, very good. I had a feeling Harry Potter would show up. I didn't know who though. All right, so this is a video game one, and this is one that's near and dear to my heart. I would love a Resident Evil theme park. Okay, I have seen actually Universal Studios has done it for their Halloween event.
Mm-hmm.
They did a section of it. All right, I'm visualizing this thing. It's basically, so Raccoon City, for those who don't know, Raccoon City is the main location, at least for the first 3 games, where the zombie outbreak happens. And they actually do stuff in Japan. Resident Evil. There's like a Biohazard restaurant in Japan that serves Resident Evil themed dishes, and there's actually so the big monster of the first game is called the Tyrant, and you can actually shoot at like this virtual. They give you like a gun, and you could shoot at the screen to try and put this thing out. So I want to implement that in a movie thing. Maranto, you've ridden the Buzz Lightyear ride.
Yep.
And I'm sure did you guys ride the Men in Black ride in Universal?
I haven't been on that. I haven't been to Universal yet.
Okay.
I didn't get to go on the Men in Black ride, but I know what it is.
So one of the rides I want to do is it's called the City of Despair Zombie Attack ride. It's basically you're riding through Raccoon City, you're seeing all these cool sights and stuff, and zombies and various monsters pop out, and you got to shoot them. It's a high score, like a scoring kind of game. Scoring kind of ride. It's a track shooter. They've done it in the various video games where you kind of just the game takes you and you just got to shoot at monsters and stuff, and you'll see a lot of cool stuff. Umbrella, for those who don't know, is the name of the big company that is the reason for the zombie outbreak to happen. An Umbrella Labs tour where you're kind of riding through and watching the outbreak kind of unfurl in front of your very eyes.
That's cool.
You guys all had escape room concepts, and I loved it. I was like, I'm glad we're on the same page, that we all kind of have that. One of the biggest things that have hooked people in Resident Evil games is the puzzle. It's puzzles. It's picking up items and placing them in a certain spot to unlock something or finding a key. You can do that in a variety of spots, but I wanted to pay homage to the very first game, which was just located in a mansion called the Spencer Mansion. do various rooms there where it's an escape room and you actually have to like use objects that are in the game. Like that's a big thing. Like people are like, oh wow, people buy like replica keys all the time because they're distinct looking keys. All right, we got to move this, this, and this, and we got to find the key to unlock this. You can have certain specific rooms, but I think just getting a group to a group of people together. Let's put our brains together and figure this out how to escape. I think it'd be a really cool thing, and just people love to be around certain things like the Harry Potter experience, the Hogwarts ride was really cool because as you're navigating in line through the castle, you're in the garden section and those little annoying what do they call them? Mandragoras, mandrakes. They're popping up, and you get to see that stuff that was in the movies. Resident Evil items are like really cool too, and a lot of them are iconic. And be able to see and touch and use those in the purpose of an attraction or like an escape room, I think would be really, really cool. So Resident Evil, I would absolutely adore. There's so many monsters that you can use, and I think I think it's the perfect situation for a theme park. I think it would do well. It's an uber popular thing, and like I said, Japan has everything. They're like the hub of pop culture, and for them to have a restaurant, I think it speaks volumes to the potential of what a whole theme park could be. So yeah, Resident Evil. That is my number 2.
It's very you.
Very cool.
Thank you.
I love it.
All right, number 1.
Well, if you haven't guessed, it's going to be Star Trek.
Yep.
So I kind of feel like that the park would make you feel like I almost feel like this park has to be in San Francisco because Starfleet Academy is in San Francisco in the universe. So I feel like the park has to be in San Francisco.
Fair.
Just to make it feel like you're actually going there. I do feel like when you go into the park, there you'd have to do things where, like, when you want to go to Deep Space Nine, which is my favorite show, I feel like you'd have to go into to get into the Deep Space Nine section of the park. You'd have to get into something which either was a transporter, so there's an effect where you go into a thing and they do flashy lights and stuff, and then you end up in the section of Deep Space Nine. Las Vegas at the Hilton had a Star Trek experience, which had a show. It was half walkthrough and then half Star Tours. And you were on the Enterprise, the Next Generation Enterprise, which was very cool. But they also just had a museum of all the props and costumes, and they had a chronological thing, and then they had like a section of shops and restaurants, which was based on Deep Space Nine, which was the Promenade. So I feel like if you did your Main Street USA, in my mind, should be Deep Space Nine, should be the Promenade, because all the restaurants and all the shops would all be walkable, and you would go when you're in Quark's, which should be a restaurant, you would go into the Hollow Suites. And so you go into this huge room that when you go in, and it's the Van Gogh experience that everybody's been going to.
Yeah.
So you have these projectors and this technology now. So you go into this room, which is a big cube, and it looks like the Hollow Suite or the Hollow Deck, depending on which style you want to design it on. And then you go through an experience, which is, again, similar to a Van Gogh thing. It's all interactive, but you're in a cart or something, but it makes you feel like you're going through a variety of Hollow Suite, Hollow Deck programs from all the different shows and stuff that people really like. So there's stuff from Voyager you can incorporate, which I don't like, but you can incorporate Deep Space Nine and the original Next Generation, and even theoretically the original Hollow Suite appearances in the animated Star Trek. So there's so many different ways, because they have animated shows now, you could do so many different things in a true experience that was supposed to be like a holodeck, Hollow Suite. Definitely want, like I said, a Quark's restaurant. I definitely think there would be some type of simulator ride, which would be probably probably Wolf 359, a simulator ride, which is when you're attacking the Borg cube.
Yeah.
And I feel like there would be definitely a really cool thing you could do with that. And then the other thing I really, really like, because I feel every Star Trek fan would like this, there's a hotel, and the hotel's themed that you can either sleep in, and the hallways, everything in these sections of the hotels you can sleep in the quarters of an original Enterprise styled hotel room.
I love it.
Or Picard's Enterprise or Deep Space Nine. I feel like if you did those three, you could definitely have I'd go stay there. I would go stay in the Deep Space, walk down the corridors, go into a room and have the thing, and the windows could look out in the real world. I don't really care, but have it really just feel like, like that experience that you're sleeping in, quarters on Deep Space Nine. Because like people, like at Sci-Fi, you ever seen those things on polls like where would you live? Like what universe would you like to live in? And I could see I'd love to have like a shop on Deep Space Nine and just live there. I mean, like I feel like that experience would be really cool.
Is that your favorite one? Is that like your favorite Star Trek? Or?
Star Trek, my favorite show has always been Deep Space Nine. I like a couple of I really like the new Captain Pike show they're doing, but I still go back to how groundbreaking in my mind Deep Space Nine was, having a single black captain,
right?
Just not being so feel like they had to be on a ship, and then this the way that they did a war, and it took like 4 or 5 seasons of the show.
Right.
The build up to the war, the actual war, the loss of characters who died, and the development of characters. Everything about Deep Space Nine to me, getting away from because they had episodic shows, but then they also had shows that I know, to me, I think Deep Space Nine was just so groundbreaking in terms of storytelling. And when you think a lot of the streaming shows and the way things are done now, I feel you can go back to shows like Deep Space Nine and see like, oh, this is the way you do it. This is the way you can evolve from traditional television.
Right.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I hope they never bring it back. I hope they just leave it where it is, because unless you got the original producers back to do the development, I feel like they would take it in a different direction. And I'd be, I can't wait. Like I just like that it's done. You're never gonna get the actors back. Most of those actors back anyway. A couple of them are gone. So just leave it as it is. So yeah, but I mean, I think it also would be like there's enough fun rides that an average person would go to the park.
Yeah,
that makes
100%. Yeah, I knew Star Trek was coming. I'm glad to hear it was your number one. I think you got a really great vision for it. So who knows? Maybe someday. Maybe you never know. You never know. It's got to, right? I mean, if they're doing all the Star Wars
Paramount's
stuff,
huge. You would think that by now they would, they do, because I feel like they've allowed themselves to sell off parts of their things into different parks and stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like they should, because like if you remember the old Canada's Wonderland, you mentioned there used to be a Star Trek.
I believe you're right.
Like show. I don't even remember what it was. I don't think I ever made it to, but there was like a Star Trek thing at Canada's Wonderland because they were part of Paramount.
Yeah.
But I feel like they need their own thing. Even if Paramount just did their own true park. I mean, they had a Star Trek section. I think there's enough stuff with Paramount that they could do, but they're probably nobody wants to put the money into that type of infrastructure.
No, it's tough.
You can't have any more theme parks in Florida. Too many.
No, there are a lot. They're all like right next to each other.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, that is a great number one. Dan, what is your number one?
Sure, this is going to be a surprise to no one. Gentlemen, welcome to Gotham City.
Hey.
So this is my number one. As you both know, I'm a gigantic Batman fan, and Moranto had touched on DC being a park, but I like the DC, but my most desired thing is I would actually like to go through a Gotham City,
right,
and actually be in there and experience all that without like the massive danger, factor, right? That has to do with all the crime and all those things.
Don't wear pearls. Whatever you do, don't wear pearls.
Right, exactly.
When you come out of the show, just don't.
Architecturally, as far as theme park standards goes, Joel Schumacher's Gotham would probably look best, but we're not going there because it's there. I don't need giant 100-foot statues of people for no reason and like all those weird things that he added. I just want straightforward Gotham. But you have all the iconic things, right? You have Wayne Manor that you can go see. You could do it on the outskirts, or you could do it like they just did it in the Batman, where you do it in the center of the city. I think that would be awesome too.
Yeah.
You do the Gotham Bank. You could do the Gotham Park Towers. You could do all the iconic places that they have within that. My idea for live shows is it's not just like a center stage kind of thing, right? I have an idea where you do one of two things. You either have people who are working at the park that are like spreading these rumors as you're going around, like oh, I hear that like tensions with Two-Face are high in this area or something like that, or like this happens. So you hear those things, or you have Riddler riddles pop up places, and that's where you figure out where Batman or Robin or Nightwing or whoever's going to be is next, and then the indicator that you only have a few minutes to figure it out is seeing the bat signal in the sky.
That's
So
really cool.
like you get to see that and you're like, oh crap, he's about to come out somewhere. Like, where is he going to be? And that kind of gives you that motivation to do that. So he's at a different location and there's different villains every time too. So you're not catching the same show everywhere. You're catching like him fighting different villains and like another member of the Bat family doing that. I think that would be a really cool way to get like people involved in Gotham. You had mentioned this before with the Batmobile ride. You absolutely need something like that, where you need a coaster that's going to really capture a really, really great chase of the Batmobile going through the city, pursuing somebody. And then you need your own interactive crime-fighting thing. So I have an idea for an Arkham Asylum lockdown type of game where you do it VR. Different villains are coming at you, and you have to like defeat them and like get to the center of it and get them all back.
Well, because
in
he
place
is the
and
great
things like that.
detective.
He's the world's greatest detective.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you, the way this succeeds the most is if you have to do detective work within this a lot.
Yeah.
Like, you really have to put your Batman cowl on and have to think the way he would in Gotham City and things like that.
Love it.
I would absolutely love to go to a place like that.
I would too. I was actually, when you started saying, listen to some of these locations, I think you have to have like a Bat Cave tour.
You sure do.
Where you, like in the massive Bat Cave where they're like, you get the Batmobile, you get the jet and the submarine, and you get all of that stuff into various costumes, and you get to kind of take a look at like what a Bat Cave would look like. I mean, everything with the waterfall.
Like a walkthrough tour would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
not
Boy
doesn't have
Manor.
to be a ride. Just let me walk around and look at the Batcave.
Right. Treat it like it's some historic location. I
Yeah.
think it'd be cool if you treat it like it's some historic location and you're just playing along and
They do a mind wipe. They do like a mind wipe when you're walking out. Okay, we're gonna wipe your mind now so you don't remember seeing. And obviously, it doesn't really happen. But they do like a thing where lasers go across your face or something, and they wipe your brain. That'd be
that, or like, oh,
You know.
you're touring and then the tour host accidentally goes, oh, what's this? And opens up like a secret doorway to the Bat Cave. And I think that would be the coolest thing.
That'd be cool.
I knew that was coming, Dan. Your vision for it is really, really cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's great. I love it.
I almost did a Spider-Man specific one because I knew you were doing Batman. I was like, do I do a Spider-Man specific one? But I decided to group mine as Marvel. With Batman, though, it's so vast. One of the best rogues galleries of all time. That obviously, obviously there's so many villains and there's so much stuff you can curtail to it. But I like how there's an adventure to being there. It's not just
for sure.
going to attractions. There's little odds and ends to do, almost like side quests in a video game.
Anything
Yeah.
that's immersive. I think all of us kind of touched on these concepts of it being immersive, where you're not like, and that's what I think like, Star Wars, the new Star Wars area, it's immersive. It doesn't feel like you're just in a random park and, oh, here's a ride.
Yeah.
You're in, whether it's Hogwarts, whatever. Like, I feel like any of these, we want to feel like we're actually there.
Yep.
We want it to be transformed. We want to feel like we've been transformed somehow through whatever technology it's done. We're in those places.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
trick me. That's what I want to feel like I'm at an interesting place. I want to go through the looking glass, so to speak.
That's what
you
you're
know.
paying for. So
You know.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I concur.
You can
Yeah.
charge more for that, too.
I needed
could.
to do something I was passionate about
Yeah.
with this. Like the way you were saying Indiana Jones and you knew the amount of days like until the next
Right.
one comes out. 972 days until the Batman Part 2 comes
Well, that
out.
was
Like
such a
I'm
good
literally
That was such a good movie. I mean,
Oh, man.
it's my favorite thing.
Mine
I
too.
love Chris Nolan stuff, but I in terms of, and obviously the Dark Knight's an incredible movie, but it's a Joker movie.
Yeah,
And unlike the other Joker movie, and I like Nolan's Batman.
I do too.
But that's Batman.
It was just beautiful.
Batman Year 2. That's Batman Year 2. That's
Yes.
what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I just loved everything about it. I loved that movie. I mean, I love the score. Everything about that movie.
Yeah.
I've found myself just rewatching that movie multiple times.
Me too.
Like I used to watch Dark Knight. I still watch Dark Knight a lot. But The Batman is a movie I watch all the time.
Yep. It was HBO Max's most streamed movie last year.
And I'm not surprised.
Dan, tell them how many times you paid to go to the movie theater to see it.
Oh my God. 5 times I think in total that I did.
Didn't you do like 3 times on that first weekend or something like
I
that?
did. I saw it 3 times the first weekend. So I got the preview of it 2 days before it came out. So they do like it comes out on Friday, but it's really Thursday night at 8
Right, at
o'clock.
midnight or
so I
whatever,
saw
yeah.
So I saw it Tuesday at like 8 or something like that. And I kind of will never do that again because I had nobody to talk about the movie with.
Oh,
and I
right,
had to
right,
just like sit on this secret, like waiting to see if people were going to think it was good or if they didn't. So I did that. And then that first Saturday it came out, I woke up and I was like, I want to go see it again. And I went and saw it again by myself. And then my best friend texted me the next day. He's like, hey, I know you texted me to tell you when you were we're going. I was like, meet at the movie theater. And I went to see it a third time.
Yeah.
Then I saw it with my dad, and I saw it one other time after that. And then the first day it dropped on HBO Max, I set up my TV in my bedroom, and I put it on.
That's amazing.
It's so good.
It is really good.
And I'm glad that they, the stuff they talked about with, James Gunn saying that it's a, what do you call it, an Elseverse or whatever he called it.
The Elseworlds, yeah.
Elseworld, thank you. And I think that, leave it alone. Just
Yeah.
don't touch it. Leave it alone. Let him do whatever he wants because we liked it. It doesn't need to be part of a bigger thing. I don't care if there's a Superman in his universe. I don't give a shit. Just leave him alone. Just let that be its own. And DC has that anyway.
Yeah.
DC is so much more about the Earth 5 and 12 and Earth Prime and all that crap. Just let him just do his own damn thing. Same thing with the other Joker universe. I like the Joker movie. I don't care if it's going to be with what's her name? Poker Face.
Lady Gaga.
Yeah, Lady Gaga. I don't care. I mean, it's gonna be great. I mean, it's
is.
gonna probably be a really fun movie, and just leave it alone. And I also like that Harley Quinn universe that's animated on. It's hilarious. It's so I like where DC's trying to go. Let's see if they don't F it up again. But the Batman is just, I think, my favorite. I think I'd have to go back to Michael Keaton's first Batman to find something else in Batman that I loved as much as this one.
Yeah.
Again, I put Dark Knight and I just put that as a separate thing. I just feel like I have to now because it's not really, he's the Dark Knight. He's not really Batman, I guess. I guess like to me they're different. It's based on a different source material.
Right.
Agreed.
Sure.
All right, Matt, go with your number one.
Sorry
I know
about
we just
the-
went on a
the-
No,
bad
you're
tangent
fine.
there.
This is the whole point of the show, guys. My number one. I'm actually surprised, Dan, it wasn't on yours. Maybe not. The Pokemon world.
Oh,
There you
cool.
go.
A Pokemon theme park. I grew up at the height of this, right? I was there in the late '90s when you were a dork and I was a dork, and if you didn't have it, you were a loser. If you didn't have it, you were a dork if you didn't have it, right? Kids coming to school had the Pokemon cards, had the toys. Pokemon cards got banned from my elementary school.
That's hilarious.
GJ Mann, shout out to Geraldine J. Mann, elementary school. Banned at the school, bringing the toys, and all that stuff. It was a phenomenon, and it's been around for over 25. Is it 25 years?
It's got to be now because the first movie's like 20 years old. at least.
Yeah, the first one was. Yeah, I
It's
think
like 25 now.
Yeah, 90. I think last year or 2 years ago was 25 years, and it's found a way to actually maintain popularity, which is the most impressive thing for me.
I agree.
I'm still strictly the older generation of Pokemon. They've added way too many. It's a little overloading. I love and worship what I grew up with, but it's found a way to constantly change, constantly find ways to stay relevant, and constantly find ways to attract new people to the audience. Me and my brother grew up. My brother's 8 years younger than me, and we grew up in two very, very different eras of Pokemon.
I thought Pokemon, that's what I was going to say. Like, I feel like there's, I think even now there's a generation of, like, there's a new generation of stuff for Pokemon now. And they don't pretend the other ones don't exist or anything. It's just like, no, there's just a continuation of that same thing. It's not like, well, then, no, that didn't happen.
Right.
Like,
which
there's no
is good.
reboot of Pokemon, I don't think. I think it's just one continuous thing, right?
Yeah,
That's true.
From 96? I feel like it was like 96,
or
mid-90s.
Yeah.
I think 96.
Maybe
you're
probably
right.
by the time he hit the United States,
The
it was probably
first game
97,
hit
98.
the first games hit 96. The cartoon I think dropped in like 98, 99,
Okay.
something like that. But you're right. It's been a continuous story and a continuous evolution, pun intended. There's so much you could do. Obviously, there's so many different lands, worlds when it comes to Pokemon. You can even do regions, how you set it up. I'd really like to do a starter Pokemon center where you kind of walk in and you get to choose your starter,
That'd be
almost like
excellent.
choosing your wand or making your lightsaber or the Doctor Who making the
Sonic screwdriver.
Sonic screwdriver. Thank you. You kind of have that experience of selecting your first one and going on this journey. You could do different gyms if you really want to. But my main attractions are this. I want a like a safari ride, but a Pokemon Snap safari ride. One of the best games and one of my favorite games on the N64 was a game called Pokemon Snap, where you take pictures of Pokemon and their habitats. With animatronics now,
okay.
you
Right,
set
right,
it.
right.
You set it up. You can have different locations,
That's
right?
really cool.
Be
Okay,
awesome.
you got a water area, and there's Squirtle just hanging out with a bunch of other Squirtles
Squirtle.
and a Blastoise, right? Or you're in a beach area, and there's the Lapras, right? He's just kind of floating around, and he can move around and interact. You go to a volcano area, and there's a Charmander. All right, try and get a picture of Charmander.
Well, you know
and
what's
Charizard.
popping in my head, and I think this is brilliant. Is it reminds? It's funny because when Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings came out,
Yeah.
and they go through the forest thing,
Yes.
and then they start seeing all the creatures, and people were like, "Oh, it's like why are all these Pokemon?" I'm like, "Well, okay, never mind." But yes, they're similar. It's similar motivation. But if that's what I like that concept when they came through and they were driving in the car, that you would see all these various things
Yeah.
up on the cliffs around you, and again, they'd be animatronic. I think that'd be genius. I think everybody would want to go see
You could
that.
do so much stuff
That's
with
very
that. So
cool.
that's one of the most important ones for me. I'm a big if I was in Avatar, I'd be a water nation. That's like my thing. I love water. I love waterfalls. A Pokemon water park based on Cerulean City, which is the very first water gym area, and this would be really cool. You can have like water Pokemon, kind of like again waterproof animatronic, spread out throughout like a wave pool, right? You're in a giant waterfall wave pool, and you're in waves coming, and a Gyarados pops out of the water, right? An animatronic Gyarados pops out of the
And
water.
that
Like,
hippo's been hopping out of Jungle Cruise for like 80
I know.
years.
Yeah,
So I mean,
you can make it happen.
they can do it. They can do it in Jungle Cruise. They can do it there.
You can, and it just spits out water or something. Just something crazy cool. You can have that, and there's just so many variations to it. And then I'd want to see a Pokemon Stadium show.
That's
I
cool.
think. Listen,
Yeah, that's cool.
there's all these concert things. Tupac, they did a damn hologram thing with. You could find a way to just have some.
No,
kind
that
of
was really
stadium show.
Tupac. He's not dead.
Yeah, it's
that was
not-
really
That's
him.
what I heard. I guess
That was him.
there's ways to do a Pokemon Stadium show. I feel it'd be just kind of cool to just have this planned show where they're throwing Pokemon stuff, and they're throwing the Pokeball, and bam, there's a holographic thing. I had a couple other ideas. There was a haunted Pokemon Tower with all the ghosts.
Oh yeah,
which,
like Tower Terror.
in a sense, you can kind of walk through, and there's the ghost Pokemon, but yeah, there's a lot to do. I've seen so much cool Pokemon stuff over the years. Like probably 10 years ago, a little picture popped up of some sushi restaurant. They would make sushi look like little Pokemon.
That's great.
That's really cool.
And it was very well done. So it's a fun detail, and you can get super creative. It's massive. You could probably put this thing anywhere, and people from all over the world would come to it.
I like the fact that you could wander around the park and do like Pokemon Go, but at a higher level.
Right. That's
With
another good
like
thing
your
too.
ball, and
Yeah.
you get the ball. You buy the ball, right?
Yeah.
And you walk around and you capture them doing different things in the puzzle, like people used to do with their phone. But it would be better, and there'd be so many ways they could do it, so you would see them too.
Remember?
You know.
Okay, you've been around. Was it Magic Kingdom?
Yep.
The Perry the Platypus.
Yeah.
When they pop up and you gotta
Yeah.
take note or something.
Yeah.
You could do that with various
for
Pokemon.
sure, without a doubt.
And maybe with the Pokeball or Pokedex, but man,
That's a great park,
yeah, I thought
and I
so.
feel it has worldwide appeal.
Absolutely.
Because it's not just, it's popular throughout the world. It's not like it's just America.
Correct.
It's popular in probably 16, 17 different languages if you watch the credits.
Yeah. It really is.
Turkish
So I
people
think that
watch
would
it,
be the
so.
big one. If I was to pick any of the ones that we chose today, especially the ones I did on my list, I think this would probably be the most feasible to happen after a Mario World. That's my personal experience because of how big it is, and just they really embrace it, and it just again it keeps finding new ways to be bigger. I think that would be I really think that would be a massive success. So
I agree.
the Pokemon world.
Very cool.
So there it is, everybody. Our top 10 theme parks and with the mini Listception attractions. Marantha, I want to thank you again for hosting us and coming on. This is nice. We get to talk twice in a month and do an episode. And
I really appreciate this a lot.
Of course.
This chance to appear on my favorite podcast is always going to be.
We get that a lot. We don't know if people are staying there just because we're here, but no, I know you've always said you're always open. But you always text me, oh, I listened to this or I listened to that, and I think we could do this. And it means a lot to me to hear that because I'm winding down as far as the vastness of podcasts that I do. Because I was literally doing it every day, and it just got so exhausting. And this is one of the ones that I've really honed in on once a week, something new every week. And, I got Dan as a co-host now.
Great
so
co-host.
He's fantastic. I've been very fortunate. He's the reason why this show kind of came back from a hiatus. But it's no pressure. It's whatever we want to talk about for that week and just get it off. And I'm glad that we can come to a place like this and converse. I think it's a really nice icebreaker for a lot of people. You really get to know somebody. Based on like a top 10 list. And it's really cool.
Yeah, I feel like I think that's a really good point. I think I know so much more about Dan. I mean, we've only talked a couple times, but now we've been on like a couple things like this together,
You just
and I
bonded
feel
over
like
Avatar.
I
You
know a
just
little
bonded
bit more
over Avatar.
about him. I mean, like because it's interesting too because I like theater, like, and I knew that about you, but now I know all this other stuff, which is probably more of our overlap. Besides that, we have my niece, like things like that. But it's kind of funny, like now I know so much more about. I don't know. I think that's why I think this podcast of yours is such a special one because it's not just sports. It's not just fandom. It's not just, you always find different things that anybody can go through. Anybody can go through this library of episodes and find something that maybe I won't listen to the NFL type thing, but I'll listen to that one because they're talking about amusement parks,
Right.
or pizzas or breakfast cereals or whatever. You guys done a little bit of everything.
Yeah, we really have.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's too many like topics that we've avoided yet, like completely. So, but yeah, this is legit. We actually, and obviously the listeners know, and I'm sure Randall heard, we like waive just doing it seasonally. I just do it year round.
Yeah,
That's how much we adore it. So, but once again, thank you, Marantha, for hosting us here at Emerge Media and Creators Co-op here in Niagara Falls. Make sure you come check it out. You can find them on Facebook. I think, are you on Twitter as well?
I'm not on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. Mainly, I don't even have like an Instagram page. It's mainly, and of course, everything is on marantomedia.com. So all the podcasts that I do, mine, Next of Kin, as well as Zach Squared. We just put our episodes right on the Maranto Media. And obviously, we all have our own thing on the BICBP.radio.
Yep.
So we're on Apple and Spotify.
You got a YouTube channel as well, right?
Everything's on the YouTube channel. We have Facebook pages, and then everything's on YouTube. We haven't really done too much with Instagram. We don't make reels, and we don't do too much with Twitter. Twitter's just kind of an ugly place right now. So
always.
We're just
always
kind of we're not bothered. I'm not even doing Twitter for my business anymore.
Right.
I just don't. There's nothing relevant for me there. But Emerge is doing quite well, and I appreciate you giving the opportunity. We have 3 new podcasts coming out we think in March. We're building 2 new podcasts. That's one's we're wallpapering tomorrow. So we're really trying to expand. And again, I always try to shout out Matt because I wouldn't be doing any of this if it wasn't for Matt giving me inviting me in that first one about spaceships.
I know.
And it's grown and it's become such a big part of my life. And you opening a door for me is open. Matt will tell you this because how much Dan, I mean, you've opened up so many doors for us doing so many other things. Yep. And I open up the doors for people. So there's 30, 40, 50 people out there that all owe you a debt of thanks.
Yeah, it's a cool little snowball effect, right? It just keeps growing bigger and bigger, and we get to help out more people, and we get to pass on our knowledge and love of podcasts.
I love it.
So that is it. Next week, Dan has choice. We're going back to alternating every week. I know we just did 2 and 2, but Dan has choice next week for what we decide. My man Tice is coming on in a couple weeks. We're going to do turning points in history. Mm-hmm. So I think after next week, Tice will be on. Shout out to my man Tice, who's another frequent listener. But we thank you so much for your support. Thank you for making this show and listening to the show and just making it worth our time.
Absolutely.
We'd probably do it without you, to be perfectly honest with you. But we like the listeners, and we like to hear everybody's thoughts and feedback. So, but that is it. Thank you so much. And on behalf of Rich, Dan, and I, do you even list?